comes up.
Welcome to AP Studios, not sponsored in any way by Nikon. We welcome everyone who is tuning in across the world and those listening to this recording. We welcome you to get active in the chat, but remind you to please keep it fun and respectful. Also remember that here at AP Studios, you do have a voice and we want to hear from you. Shoot us an email or comment in the chat if you would like to jump in the sandbox with our incredible panel. Now, without further ado, join me in welcoming your host, the man of the people, the oracle of Nikon and the Eminem slayer of the Midwest,
That Eminem Slayer comment slays me every time.
Yeah, Joey's in the chat already. Joe, if you'd like to jump in, just let me know, man. I don't know if I sent you a link or not, but there are links already sent to a lot of people. Anybody that would like to join, check out the pinned message at the top. Send me an email to the address provided. And let me know in the chat so I can jump over there and bring you in. Jeffrey, how are you this morning from beautiful South Carolina?
Beautiful, overcast South Carolina. And we're doing good.
All right. Joe says, please send. Let me jump over there real quick. I thought I did, but you know what? We'll just do it again just to be sure. Joe, one of the problems I have with you is you're not on the. Send me an email to that address so I get you in this. And I will definitely send you the link. So I have you over here on the other email address where I'm doing all of the AP Studio stuff. All right. Let me get back. Sorry. All right. Yeah. So real quick before we get into street photography, is anybody excited about the new lens announced last night by? All right, Joey, the new lens announced by Nikon last night.
Yeah, everybody don't jump up and down all at once here.
Yeah, I mean, there may be a few people, I guess, that are really looking for something like that. But I think the majority of the people are waiting for, drum roll, please, the 2 to 600 or 180 to 600 or whatever Nikon's going to do. Everybody's waiting on that lens.
Yeah, waiting too long.
Joe, I didn't get it, but you know what? Let me just switch email accounts real quick and go to the other. Nope. All right. Sending it back to the first one that you sent.
Mr. Ray Powell's here, Berwick upon Tweed.
Berwick upon Tweed. I love it, as you all know. All right, back to AP Studios email. All right, now back to the stream. Sorry about that. Andy Miller, how you doing? Let's see. David Bransma is already in here. Mr. Berwick upon Tweed himself. Jeff and Leslie Wildlife Photography. Gustavo, how you doing, Gustavo? Anybody that would like to join, just let me know if I haven't already sent a link. Manila Martin. All right. Mike Farwell. Good morning, Chuck. My son, might as well put this up here. My son talked me into jumping out of a plane this Saturday. To say I'm a bit nervous is an understatement. You'll be fine, Mike.
You have time to change your mind.
Well, that is true too. That is true too.
You feel like you're not feeling quite right now. You're getting a little sick, are you? I'd be looking for any excuse not to jump out of a perfectly good airplane.
Who is Seraphin says, great subject, got pretty serious into street photography after the wife and I went through a mass shooter and I needed something to cope with the aftermath and the anxiety she was going through. That's great, man. If that's helping you, then just another opportunity for photography to, make you feel better. That's great. Good morning, Tim. How you doing?
And as Andy says, hey, at least you could check off another one on the roadmap. That's done.
Yep. The bucket list.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Andy says, and Andy says, I received my second Z8 today. You hoarder while people wait for it. I'm just kidding you, Andy.
You're not going to flip it and add $300 to it.
Yeah. Somebody just got caught. An NPS member just got caught doing that. I think I saw something about that. Good on Nikon for catching somebody doing that. I'm partway through a rig build. Okay. All right. So you got the small rig cage. And I'll tell you, you can't beat the small rig cage. I've got one on my Z6 that's actually shooting the stream right now, doing the stream right now. And you can mount all kinds of accoutrements to it. So it's really nice for a run and gun type setup for video. It doesn't add any weight. You know, maybe all the items you add to the cage add weight, but the cage itself is really comfortable to hold even. All right. So we got 26 people in here already. That's great. I love it. Today we're going to talk about street photography. And this isn't me teaching anybody street photography by any means. This is about us talking about what we do, what we consider street photography. And, maybe we can pass some tips and tricks on to people that might want to go out and try it. I do enjoy it, actually, street photography. I just don't have a nice area where I live to go out and do it. But I do have New York City, which is only about an hour and 20 minutes away. And from time to time, I make my way down there. This photo you see on the screen back here, that was taken down in New York City, and the one on the thumbnail as well. So New York City provides a great opportunity for street photography. And I know you do a little bit of street photography yourself, don't you, Jeffrey?
Yeah, actually, I submitted a photo to you with a black and white street photography image, or one that I converted to black and white. And it's funny, I like it, but I'm a little nervous when I do it, only because, well, I don't know. Two things about it, I guess. I hate to say bother me, because I do enjoy doing it, but it's like, I'm not one that's going to run up to people and get, model releases and stuff in case I take one that I really think is really special, and I might want to make a print or sell a print or something like that. So that part of it bothers me, is that, you really can't just, not like a bird. I could make and sell a picture of a bird. I don't have to get permission.
Right.
It's totally different with street photography. And I know everybody has different opinions about that. Some people feel if you're in a public place and you take a picture of somebody in a public place, that those rules don't apply. But I don't know, those things are very confusing to me as to what you can do and what you can't do. So I like to do it, but it's really for my own personal use, and I don't try to sell any of the images. And I guess that's how I'll leave it,
Same here, Jeffrey. I do it for myself, just to share with others or whatever. And I don't know all the rules, ins and outs about selling a photo that's taken in public of somebody, but I think that there is some controversy over whether you can take it if it's of their likeness or whatever, and sell it. But I don't know for certain, but I just do it because I enjoy it. And I'm not one either to run up. I'm shooting with a longer lens than probably some people do. I'd rather shoot with either the 24-70 that gives me an opportunity, for wide to tell a photo, or sort of at 70 millimeter. And I don't even, I think I could be happy shooting with the 1-400, which I may try. A lot of people say, well, you're very suspicious looking, and somebody's already commented about that. I don't care. I'm going to take photos out in public. And if somebody wants to chase me down, I'll explain what I'm doing. And if it turns into a big, to do, I would just delete the photo if they wanted me to. But that's the whole part of street. I want it to be candid. I don't want to ask people to take their photos. So,
well,
anyway.
what I wonder is, like, obviously, Matt Irwin, he makes a living doing that. So, and he publishes a lot of books, and he sells a lot of prints. So I'd love someday, to find out, what restrictions he has. And he's printing everything with people in it, and I can't imagine that he's running up to anyone that's in that picture that's recognizable and saying, "Can you sign this? Can you sign that? Can you?"
Yeah.
I just don't imagine him doing that. But then, I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't either. That would be a good question if ever get a chance to talk to him, just to ask him about that. You're right. Even in movies, maybe it's different for movies, but you'll notice a lot of times they have stand-ins or actors or whatever, or just crowds, and I think that they sign a release or something to be seen in the background or whatever. I don't know. It's a good question. Still, I'd like to track down an attorney that specializes in, or at least practices, um, photography rights and whatever, to come on the show. Ever find one, I'm going to have them come on the show and let everybody just throw all their questions at them. I think it'd be a great show. So I have no idea though. Let's see.
Yeah, Kevin Nordstrom. Hi, Kevin. He's got a good comment too.
Okay. Who is Seraphin says, what I've learned, don't act suspiciously, have a demeanor, and be intentional on what you're doing. I agree with that. Be intentional, I think, is the most important part of that statement, so that you're not hiding anything. And if people do come up to you, you could just explain what you're doing. 99% of the time you end up meeting a new and interesting person. Yeah, I can see that as well. I do both candid and ask people. Okay. All right. And I guess that would be okay too if people are just standing around maybe and it makes for a good photo to ask them. And let me bring Joey in real quick. Joey, thank you for the intro again, brother.
Good morning, everyone. How y'all doing?
I love that Eminem Slayer part. That kills me.
He has to slay them M&Ms. It's not Smarties.
Yeah. I never hear him scream though. I never hear any screaming coming out of the bag. Don't eat me.
He kills them ethically before the stream starts.
Yeah, Kevin's comment there. Here in Northern Ohio, I do more urban and suburban or small town street photography. My anxiety couldn't handle a major city like Cleveland, excuse me. Yeah, in New York City, I think it's just, maybe it does give you a false sense of confidence or something, because everybody, it's just so busy down there too. Half the people have no idea that you're even taking photos. So maybe that kind of makes me feel a little more comfortable in doing it. I don't know. And David Brandsma asks, has anybody been mugged while doing street photography? I haven't, but maybe somebody in the chat would chime in if they have, or been approached or whatever. I have not. I've been very fortunate. How about you, Joey? You do a lot of street there in your city. So how about you?
Yeah, I've been chased. That one day I was taking a photo of a building, and this homeless guy got in it in his head that I had taken a photo of him. I hadn't. Like, he was behind me, my camera's pointing forward, so he was obviously just wanting to cause something. So he started running at me. So I literally just took off with all my gear and just kept running, because I think it's funny. I actually feel like busier cities are actually safer than more quiet cities. So like the city I live in, it's a decent size. It's like maybe, I think we're almost at 2 million. But the downtown core is not super busy after 5. So because of that, certain elements of the population are more vibrant than others in terms of them appearing to you. So when I'm doing photos here, if I'm using a tripod, it's got to be with a friend, always buddy system 100%. And if I'm doing run and gun by myself, I will seriously not even take a tripod. I will take one lens, one camera, and it's run and gun, just moving constantly. I'll maybe stop for about 5 seconds and then keep going. Otherwise, I'm putting myself and my gear at risk. Now, a city like Seoul, no problem at all. I could be taking photos until 4 a.m. by myself and not be worried. Yeah, a guy might be like, hey, why did you take my picture? Then you just delete it. But to your point, you were saying, Chuck, if you take it with a purpose and you look like you're not nervous, you're good. A few live casts go on photography, and we have my buddy Austin on. He's a great example of someone that takes photos with purpose. When we would go out, he might walk, a foot away from someone with a flash camera, take a photo, walk past them, nothing would ever happen. Me, I would be posted up like a mile away with an old vintage telephoto, and like the guy would just make a beeline for me every time, right? So I think having that confidence is really important, but I think that's one of the misconceptions, that quieter cities are safer, but in a lot of instances they're not, because unfortunately, depending on where you are, there are certain elements of the population that will approach you and do pose more of a threat to you than others might.
Yeah, Joe says he got slapped in the face by a homeless man in Miami. So let me backtrack on what I said. I've never had an issue, but I have with a homeless person, or, not to take away from the homeless, the truly homeless that are out there just trying to survive. But I had a homeless guy after I took a photo, and he thought he was in the photo, which he wasn't, but didn't matter. I mean, he thought he was. And his issue wasn't that I took his photo. It was I took his photo and didn't give him some money. That's all he wanted. So rather than start a big to-do on the street, I gave him a buck, or whatever change I had in my pocket. So that can happen too, I guess, quite often. So yeah, but that's really the only thing that's ever happened to me on the street.
Well, there's if I go out with my medium format camera, I'm on a tripod. So everybody knows my intentions, because as they're walking towards me, they see this hulking tripod in their walking path aimed right in that direction, so there's no hiding it. And I don't have an issue. I haven't had any trouble with that. I avoid certain areas, and I never go by myself. But this is where I understand why people, like a super small camera too, like a Leica or the old pen cameras, or something really, really small that you could just almost just slip in a pocket and pull it out, but it's still a quality camera.
That's why I go with the purpose, and and shoot without hiding what I'm doing, because then you get accused of something like that. And Seraphin has a comment here, not mugged, but asked if I was an undercover cop. I can see that too.
Yeah.
Cooley, I see
That's funny.
Comment.
I was out. Oh,
Thank
sorry.
you.
Go ahead, Chuck.
No, go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to say, I was out, I think it was about, I got 2 street photo experiences I can tell you guys about from recently. About 10 days ago, I was out doing a wedding. It was in the middle of downtown. It was my first time doing wedding photos. It's just not my vibe. It's too stressful. They have too many requests, but it was one of my colleagues, so I couldn't really say no. So she was like, hey, I want to do a bunch of photo spots all around downtown. We'll have a driver, shouldn't be a problem. Even in that instance, I was only shooting with one lens. I left my gear bag in the car, and it was run and gun the entire time. And even one spot we couldn't go to because there were some guys shooting up there. So it's very I think in those instances when you're shooting, you need to be very flexible. You might have sort of a planned idea of where you're going to be shooting for your client, but be reactive to the situation, and don't let a shot list compromise the safety of you as well as your subjects. Right. And even 4 nights ago, I was out shooting my Z7 review with the camera store. And my buddy and I were out doing these street shots. I was using a Z7 and Z6. He was using an R5 and an R3. So obviously we both got hands full of cameras. Guy approaches us and says, hey, my buddy's passed out over there. Can you help me get him up? And, 10 years ago, I would have probably helped him.
Yeah.
This moment, I'm looking around, I'm like, there's a guy who's not holding cameras. There's a guy who's not holding cameras. No. He's like, well, F you. And I'm like, yeah, well, you're not mugging us. So, it was
Isn't it a shame that that's where we're at in society today? You're absolutely right. 10 or 15 years ago, you wouldn't hesitate. But nowadays, it's a shame. You've got to question what their motive really is. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Paul Hill says, hi, Chuck. Just wanted to say street photography can be a great way to make contacts and friends. I agree with that. I have arranged photo shoots with 3 people whilst doing street photography. Man, that's great. Paul, you need to join us on here and talk about that. There may be others that maybe how you went about that could help some others that might want to do that.
Yeah, the other great thing about street photography is it can give you something to do with friends you already have. 2 guys that are coming to my wedding, one's going to be a groomsman and the other one's a best man. That's really what kind of became our thing. We used to, like, I met one of them, just he was a university student. The other one, he was a teacher at the same time when I was in Korea, and we would just go out and have beers. And then they saw my camera and they were both like, "Oh man, like, how do I use this?" It was a Nikon D7100. So they both learned on the 7100.
Okay.
And then that kind of became our thing. We'd be out doing street photography till 3, 4 in the morning, a couple nights a week, and have beers and walk around. And it's a great way to have fun and create something while at the same time relaxing and hanging out.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
I was just going to say, when I met up with Mozman up in North Carolina, we were going to take some pictures downtown, and we decided we were going to get something to eat. So we walked in between 2 buildings. I mean, there wasn't a lot of gap between them to get to the other street. We were in a parking area, and we said, well, let's shoot between those buildings. And there were 2 homeless people that we didn't see until we were like basically right on top of them, sitting on the ground. And we just, kind of like we had our cameras hanging off of us. We just kind of slowly kept going. And within seconds, a cop walked up into that little alleyway and was talking to the homeless people, knew them by name. "You guys doing okay? Everything all right?" And I don't know if the cop did that just to make us feel a little safer. But I had no intentions of, "Hey guys, how about we kneel down next to you, take a picture of you?" That did not pop into my head. It was like, okay, let's keep going and go to the restaurant and move on.
I just thought about that. That is one of the nice things about these new flippy screens or tilting screens is you can hold it at waist level and take photos, nonchalantly. Like I say, I go out there with the mindset that I'm taking photos of people. I mean, not that street photography is just about people. It's about architecture and so many other things as well. I understand that. But people seem to make a street photo so unique. I mean, when you captured something that is really unique with street photography. Seraphin says, with Central Florida, so many good areas. One of my favorites is Disney Springs with the tourists. They always seem so aggravated and stressed with the family. I can see that. You know what? Drop in the chat over here. Drop your wherever you are. If you do street photography, some good areas, unless you want to keep it to yourself, but maybe other people live near you and would like to go out and check it out themselves. So by all means, drop that in the chat too. We'll try to recognize as many as we can. So Cooley says he had a homeless person throw a shoe at him one time.
I hope it wasn't a big shoe. I hope it was like a size 3.
Joe says he said he got slapped by a homeless man in Miami. He said that was after I bought him a drink and he went into a rage. I put him on his butt after he slapped. Oh man.
Where the guy throws a shoe at you, you say thanks and you take it and walk away with it and say, now you can walk around with one shoe.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Exactly. Or throw it on a roof or something. Yeah. Six string Brian. Hey Brian, how you doing? Hey folks. Brian, are you doing any street photography up there where you're at? Let us know in the chat.
Yeah. Chuck, I don't know if this would be beneficial to the live cast, but would you guys like me to share some old street photos from Seoul that we were taking with a Fuji?
Yeah, absolutely. Get it set up and let me know. Why do I have a call?
Because you're popular. You're a man of the people.
I don't know who this is.
It's an M&M's rep.
Yeah, exactly. I'm falsely representing them or something. Yeah. It couldn't be anything good. Tilting screen, yes. Flippy screens, no. Okay. All right, Andy. Yeah. Well, they're going to eventually. Nikon. I expected the Z8 to have a flippy screen, to be honest with you. Not that that's something I wanted, but I expected it to have that. And I wouldn't put it, I wouldn't doubt that Nikon would put a flippy screen on the Z6 III for certain, and maybe even the Z7 III. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah.
I like Jeff and Leslie. That was Nikon USA wanting you to be a brand ambassador.
Yeah.
No, actually, Nikon Canada, like they just had the Sean LeBlanc. He's doing like the cross country Z8 release thing right now, and they had a release party here in Calgary, and like I don't think anyone knew about it. Like I saw on Sean LeBlanc's like Instagram the day after, like the story and stuff. There was like 8 people at this thing, and I'm like, who got the invite to this? Like I'd love to go to that, but no.
Yeah. Andy says the challenge in street photography is to develop your voice, not just another tourist snap. You're right. And I think that comes with going out and shooting, and whatever you see is interesting. Eventually you can judge, or you'll judge by how it's received as to what is good street photography, or something that's interesting to most people. So I agree with you. Paul, he says he'd love to join, but he's on his phone. Paul, you can join from your phone. All you have to do is send me an email to the email address pinned at the top and click the link, and it'll bring you right into the show. So if you would like to do that, by all means, do so. Yeah, I see it now. It's Nikon USA. Yeah, very, very. Yeah, that's definitely a funny little comment, because Nikon USA. I'm on the blacklist with Nikon USA. By the way, I know I am. Oh man. So who is Seraphin? He's talking about he carries the Instax printer to give out photos to some people I have conversation with, which has got me future work. Great. That's a great idea, man. That's a great way to soothe over some, hurt individuals about you taking their photo. If you can hand them a photograph of themselves. Who doesn't like a photo of themselves? Here we are downtown, wherever, New York City, and this guy just takes a photo and prints it for us. Great story for them to tell too.
I took a picture of a artist painting at the local botanical gardens. I asked permission first. She said, "Oh yeah, I'd love it." So I took her picture. I showed her the pictures on the back of the camera, and I said, "If you don't mind," I gave her a business card. I said, "If you could send me, email me if you want them. I want them. I'll send you the files, and you can do with you what you want with them." And I did so, and she shared them with her friends in her club, artist club that she was in, and they all got a kick out of it, and made a friend with somebody I didn't know, and gave her the files, and worked out great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Mozman says it was NPS. He corrected it. NPS telling me that I had a short window to accept. Probably. They just
seriously, I think NPS communicates with Pyres of Fire. Like, you guys remember Lord of the Rings when it's like, light the beacon? Like, I think that's how they announce your membership. There's like a panel of like robed old men that sit in their high chambers in the city, and then there's just like a thing of fires that go around, and you're like, okay, there's a new NPS member. This is great.
Yeah, well, yeah, anybody but me, my name comes up. It's like, no, denied. Bam.
I get denied every time too. Like I've applied 4 times, and they're just like, no. And I'm like, please, sir, I just want to go to your launch events.
Woody Mallory says, I don't do street photography, but do a lot of festival photography in Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee of people. Yeah, I'm a candid shooter. I like candids. And, if I was doing weddings, I would want to be the second shooter, because I like the candids more than I like the poses. So, but I guess you could call that street photography as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, when you're even a guest at a wedding, and you bring your camera, and you could get the pictures of like the flower girls and the flower girl and the ring bearer, doing silly things because of their age or whatever. And that make great photos that, no one else is really even looking at, paying attention to.
Let me drop the email address in here for anybody that's looking for it to join the panel. Yeah, hang on just a second, Joey. I just wanted to get through several of these comments before, I'm going to be way behind eventually. So I may as well save it while you're showing photos, and I'll try to scan some more of the comments. Mozman says, I do sidewalk photography. It's safer.
I like that. He's not jaywalking like Quebecois in French Canada. I will cross the road the way I want, huh?
It's just something I think is a lot harder to do now. Like people said, like you talked, Chuck, a lot different to do it now than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, and the photo that you see behind me, that was 10 years ago or 11 years ago. And I didn't mind at all walking the streets by myself down in New York City, even with, I think this was taken with the D800, but I've got other photos that I took with the D850, carrying it around. I didn't worry at all. But nowadays, I don't know, man. It's just crazy out there. But I'm not going to be one of those people that's going to hide for the rest of my life. I'm still going to go do the things I want to do. I just may be a little more careful about doing them. 43 people in here. For everybody that's in here right now, the only thing I ever ask for is likes. And if you all would be kind enough to drop a like on the stream, I appreciate that. Keeps me motivated, and I keep doing my thing. RBJ Photography just dropped in. How you doing, Robert? All right. Again, go to the pinned message at the top if you'd like to join the panel. It has the email address that you see on the screen right now, because I'm going to get rid of that so that, throw Robert's comment in there real quick. Hey, guys. So that we can go to Joey. Joey, you ready to show us a few photos here?
Yeah, a bunch of really blurry, unedited ones, but yeah, I am ready. So just to give context, this wasn't taken with a Nikon. None of these were. So basically, I had my D7100 for a long time, and then I wanted to go the mirrorless route, but at this point, the Z6 was quite expensive still, because it was still a pretty new camera. So I got a Fuji X-T20, got an old adapter, and then I was shooting with a lot of Canon FD glass. So most of this is shot with like a 50 1.4 FL lens and a 25 to 75 f4 zoom, but again, all manual, old vintage glass. So yeah, this one is of a man on his phone. I always like to try to take pictures of people on their phones, because then they weren't looking at me, which meant I was safe. But
as they're in the middle of the road, getting ready to get hit by a car because they're not paying attention. Those are the good ones.
Exactly. So yeah, here's all the blurry images. But yeah, the thing I liked about Soul was just like every image, like there was just so much color in everything that you were doing. So like even if you were wanting to change things in post, like it really you didn't really have to do that much. This one's a bit soft, but I always liked how these older ladies walked with such confidence. They were like, I am going this way and I will not stop for anyone or anything. Like if there was a car, they would go through the car.
Well, this is a good chance to throw in the black and white, since that's going to be our photo review coming up. Again, though, if you don't have a black and white photo and don't want to take one, that's fine. Use what you have. But I'm just curious, did you ever try any of these in black and white just to see what they would look like? Or do you just feel like, no, I want them in color, Joey?
Oh, I did lots in black and white. So usually I shoot in color, then I'll edit in black and white after.
Mm-hmm.
Like I actually this morning I was just doing a batch export of the wedding photos in black and white because the bride wanted it. I actually like taking photos in black and white sometimes. I feel like you look at a scene differently than you do when you're looking at it in color. But it can add a lot of drama and character to it. Like this image, like if we were to like punch in on these two older gentlemen in the corner here and make this black and white, I feel like that could be pretty cool.
I think certain images just lend themselves perfect for black and white. Like, a person leaning against a brick wall on a building, smoking a cigarette or a cigar, or a cemetery. I mean, does a cemetery really look good when it's in color? I mean, it looks a million times better when it's black and white. I mean, so there's certain scenes I think that just scream black and white. You know, an old church, you know, out in the middle of nowhere, or an abandoned building. Those types of things always look good in black and white.
Totally. Wait, hold on just a second. I'm just trying to get past all these rainy photos. Oh, I don't remember taking any of these. It's been
Well, you know what? As far as rain goes, man, Matt Irwin has sold me on doing some street photography at night, rainy night. Man, I love that. Anybody else agree with that? Yeah, it may be miserable to be out in it, but man, I love the reflections, and it's beautiful.
Colored streaks in the puddles and everything from the neon lights.
Did you get a release from those flowers, Joey?
Yeah.
Oh, pardon?
Did you get a release from those flowers?
Oh, big time. Yeah, I love doing the flowers. Yeah, no, yeah, there was I even remember when I took this. I know all of these are in Korea, but there was a lot of spiders too, actually.
All right. Oh.
Let's see if let me get out of the rural ones, because this isn't really street photography. Oh God, those are. Hold on 2 seconds. We're gonna advance forwards. Now we're into raw files. Let's see if it can preview a raw file.
I doubt it, but
it did it before. It just takes a second sometimes to load. If it doesn't, then I will exit out of the screen share. Oh wait, here we go. There's more JPEGs. Yay for JPEGs. You know, it's funny. Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, there we go. We're back into. So technically, this is street photography. Technically, I know it's more architecture, but
it's on the street.
Exactly, on top of a building with a big rainstorm coming in. Oh God, these are all so blurry. It's funny looking back, because it's like you learn more about your gear, but I actually learned more taking photos with my Fuji than I did with my Nikon, because everything was so manual, especially with the older lenses. So I actually found I got better at taking photos after having used it, because I was like, oh, I know what an aperture is now. Before, I couldn't differentiate what an aperture and a shutter was for the life of me. But I think the thing I really enjoyed about living here was just the diversity. Like even this, you've got a really modern building, you've got a sculpture of a butt on the left, and then a mix of older and new cars. It's such a weird.
And that building looks like a UFO just landed on that block.
Yeah, that's the fashion district, actually.
That's funny.
I really wish I'd nailed the focus on this. It would have been good, but I did not. Because
I'll tell you where it's neat taking photos is at night is Las Vegas.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Because you've got more things lit up there, man. It's crazy. All the casinos and everything.
No, that would be awesome. I've always wanted to do Vegas. I just haven't had a chance to travel there yet. Such a short flight, though. I have no excuse.
I took some pictures, Chuck, of the M&M building in Las Vegas. I should send to you.
Oh, cool. Well, hey, Joey, let me jump in here. You've inspired me to grab a couple of mine. And
actually, here, let me exit my screen share here. Stop screen share. There we go.
let me.
Thanks for letting me share.
Yeah, I just want to. Let's see where. Here we go. All right.
He says Independence Day. Yeah, with that one picture, Independence Day. Yeah, that was a great movie. I love that movie.
Oh, this is sick. I love the black and white.
All right, so that's downtown New York City. It's one of the Jewish synagogues, and of course, I played with it a little bit in Photoshop because I just love the. I don't know. I wanted to. It looks old anyway, but I wanted to accentuate that. So there you go. That's architecture with street photography, downtown New York City. Hang on a minute. I got a few of them that I put in there. Here you go. Is that interesting to anybody? Not most people, but again, architecture in the city. There you go. Downtown New York City.
Yeah.
That's clean.
I love this photo. That's the reason I have it. I just enjoyed it. I like the guy running too. Again, the candidness of it is, you know, some of the things that make it. The crowd over here underneath all the. So that's just me. It's in Times Square. And this is one of my favorite photos. I love this photo. Maybe others don't, but I love it. And it's hard to tell here, but I love the shadows is what I was after. The long shadows, late evening, downtown New York City. Well, not late. It's early evening because this is in the winter, and the man walking his dogs. So yeah, I see. Do I have anything else in this group? Yep, there you go. Trump Towers. That was on the way down there.
I like what you did with the colors on this, with the greens. It's very it makes me feel like this is like a photo from like the 60s or the 70s, just with the toning you did. It's really clean.
I think that's it. Yeah. Oh, no, here you go. Me shooting my reflection in a window downtown. That's my daughter standing to what you're seeing to my left, the right of the screen. She was here, and we took her down to New York City to walk around and watched a bunch of folks. This is up here in Connecticut. This is at a winery that my wife and I went to, and somebody had parked their car out with their old, I don't know what it is. And I thought, man, it just matches the scenery. So anyway, I've got a bunch of other street photos, but at least you can see a few. Let me make sure I get out of this. So yeah. All right. I sent a link to you, Paul. I responded to your email with a link, and you're welcome to join anytime that you want. Let me get rid of something here. Remove source. All right. All right. So a lot of comments going by. Kevin says, let's do a storm chasing for photos. I would love to. I love storm chasing anyway. My youngest daughter and I used to do that when I was really big into ham radio. And all right, Paul's trying to get in right now. Hang on. All right. Everybody welcome Mr. Paul Hills. Paul, how you doing?
Hello, hello.
Can you hear us?
My headphones died.
I don't think he can hear us. Well, we'll see if he gets audio going here soon. All right. Paul, join us when you can hear us. You can't hear that, so
And I'll try not to be mean, Chuck. I won't move my lips without saying anything.
all right. After being confronted by people, I will never do street photography again. I was even told by a cemetery groundskeeper that photos were not allowed of the headstones. Robert Varner. Okay. Well, you can't let one incident control what you want to do. But if you don't want to do street photography, that's another thing. Paul, can you hear
managing the anxiety with it?
Well, I tell you, you're a little apprehensive when you go out to do it.
Can you hear us, Paul?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, terrific. Brilliant.
Hey,
Great.
no
Yeah, I
problem,
just wanted
Paul.
to talk
One issue
about
you may be
street
having is are you using Chrome as your browser? If you're using Safari is terrible for the feed. Chrome works best.
Let me go to another room because the signal is probably quite bad actually in the back room.
Okay.
Is it any better here? Is that any good?
Yeah, it seems to
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not breaking up at all. Yeah,
Brilliant. The
much
lighting's
better.
better here as well. Yeah, great. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about meeting people, on street photography jaunts, because I'm quite a shy sort of person. It's quite a big thing actually joining this stream. I never thought I would, but when I'm out doing shooting,
A lot of
I'm
people
a
say
different
that.
person. I'm a different animal. And if I want the shot, I'll do almost anything to get the shot. And on basically 3 separate occasions now over the last couple of years, I've just asked someone if they'd step into a particular position so I could take a shot. Done so, and then I've said, I email the picture to you, and they've said yes. And then when I've emailed the picture, I've said, if you ever wanted to do a photo shoot, I'm prepared to, meet up with you and so on. And it's happened 3 times now. In fact, well, actually, the 3rd shoot is on Monday, this coming Monday. And
Wow.
just meet the person and just do a photo shoot out in the open. So you just got to do it, haven't you? You just got to kind of grab the situation.
Talk us through one of these opportunities that you gained from being on the street. How did you approach, or how did it happen?
Well, the first one was in a place called Canary Wharf, which is a financial district of London. And there was a tunnel thing, and to walk through the tunnel as I was taking the shot. So I saw this lady, approached her, I took the shot, and then afterwards I emailed the picture to her, and just said, if you found a photo shoot, just email me back. And she did. Photo shoot, I took a light down there, a speed light with an umbrella. We did a full photo shoot. That was the first occasion. The second occasion was someone where the person was sitting outside a cafe, and I took a candid shot of her sitting at a table drinking a coffee, showed her the picture, and then I did the same thing. I emailed her the picture because she really liked it, and we met up subsequently for a photo shoot. And then the third occasion, which is this coming Monday, it was the same kind of where I just asked someone to pose in a particular situation, and it just kind of just happens. And I think, to be honest, it's probably your demeanor as much as anything, because if you come across as genuine and not threatening and fun, then people will respond, positively.
So do you typically, after you
got to be, I suppose, people trust me.
Well, that could be so. It could be. Do you typically go up to the person after you've taken a photo of them to explain that you've done that? Is that how you introduce yourself for this possible contact?
Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, if the mood takes me, but I mean, I've got to say, mostly I don't. I mean, in 99% of cases, I don't approach people. I'll just take the shot, candidly. But if I'm feeling in that particular mood, then I'll go up and say, "Oh, I've just taken this photograph. Do you want to have a look at it?" And and generally, quite often they like the picture, and I'll offer to email the picture to them, and then it all starts from there.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Cool.
I never even thought about doing that. Go ahead, Joey.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask Paul, because that's so cool. What focal length are you usually using when you do this? Like, are you rocking zoom? Are you using a prime? Like, what's sort of your go-to?
Well, I normally use a 35mm, sometimes an 85, but I think 35 is a street photography focal length. But it just depends on the situation. I mean, the shot, well, the photo shoot that I've arranged for Monday, well, the person who posed for the photograph, and the person who I asked to pose the photograph, you know, the main focus of the photograph, if you like. They still liked the picture, and it still led on to them agreeing to do it this coming Monday. So, you know, just can happen. You have to be honest, and you have to really want it. And because photography is my passion. Like I say, I'll step out of my comfort zone, and I'll touch people, and I'll be probably more forthcoming and a bit more brave than I normally would be.
Yeah, you just have to be confident in what you're doing. Yeah. Well,
That's
you know,
it. You have to be, but also you don't want to come into kind of well, you don't be creepy for a start.
you don't want to be a voyeur.
You just want to
Yeah.
be friendly. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
I agree with that. And again, that's what I do when I was down in New York City. I'm just going to take the photo. And again, I don't want to look like I'm trying to sneak a photo, and I'll let the chips fall where they may. If they want to pursue me to find out what I was doing, then that's fine too. At least I wasn't sneaking about it.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to come across as creepy. And the three shoots that I've arranged with people have been outdoors in the daylight in a public space. Actually, they're all along a kind of riverside, if you like, in the city.
Okay.
So there's no threat. There's no danger. There's no, it's not like I'm asking someone to come back to my house and that kind of thing. So it's all very, and also the thing is, the one thing I do in my email is I put a link into my Flickr and my Instagram and my 500 pics, so that people can see what my pic is, and I think that then probably gives them the confidence to do a shoot with me.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. You're absolutely right. So you can show to them that I'm not just some weirdo out here trying to get photos of women or whatever. Yeah. Joey's got to go here in just a few minutes. Joey.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Paul, that's so cool that you actually were able to approach those folks. Like, I think that really, there's kind of three schools of thought with street photography. There is the sniper who is nervous and is hiding in corners and can be perceived as creepy. There is the overtly aggressive who just will take the photo and has kind of got the FU mentality. And now there's the third one, which I think is yours, which I really like that, which is I'm here, I'm taking photos, come up, talk to me, have a conversation. I think that's really constructive. And I think that like a lot of people could do well using that method because it's very approachable, it's not confrontational, and it's like, hey, like I got this dope photo of you, you can have it. Like, I think that's really great in creating those dialogues. You can really do some cool stuff. So thanks for sharing that. That was really cool. And Jeff, Chuck, great seeing you guys as always. Sorry I inundated you with blurry photos from a Fuji, but it was fun.
No, it was fun. And you know what? It doesn't matter. The camera has no bearing on street photography, does it?
Nope. My shaky hands do. I know what I am, but I loved that camera. It was awesome. Imagine how good it would have been if I had like an autofocus lens. It would have been so fancy.
Yeah, probably been a little easier, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome, guys.
All right, Joey. Get back to work, man.
Yep. I got to get back to the grind. Good seeing you guys. Have a good day.
All right, Joey. Talk to you later, brother.
Yeah. Bye.
Well, I think the approaching technique, sometimes it's like I said, I did it with that lady where it was going to be rather obvious. I wanted to take her picture, but if you're even taking a candid shot and the person realizes you took a picture of them and you can tell they're starting to get a little bit stressed out, You can approach them before, you know, the steam comes out of their ears and say, just so you know, I took a picture of you. I think it's very wonderful. Would you like to see it? And then offer, you know, to send them a print or send them the file or whatever. And that calms everything down right away, typically.
Yeah. So Paul, how often do you go out and do street photography?
Well, probably once a week. I actually retired almost 2 years ago. Took early retirement, and so I'm living the dream, doing
All
whatever
right.
I want nowadays.
That's
And
great.
a lot of the time I'm doing photography or portraits or anything, to be honest. I do sport, wildlife, macro, product, you name it, I'll do it. But actually, can I just say something? I've been using DSLRs, Nikon DSLRs, for the last sort of 10 years or so, and I've just recently bought a Z5, just moving, you know, slowly into the Z system. And what's really amazed me is that my f-mount lenses on the Z5 seem to be sharper than they are on the DSLRs, even with, you know, autofocus fine tuning. They still seem to operate better on the Z5.
A lot of
I don't
people
know
have
why. This.
a lot of people have commented about that. I can't comment from experience that, you know, myself, but a lot of people have said that, and they're more responsive. Autofocus is more responsive. I know that's built into the camera. We're talking about the camera, but still, yeah, a lot of people have said that because there are people that were worried with the FTZ adapter that they were going to lose, you know, it wouldn't be any good. They were going to lose all their F-mount glass. They couldn't use it. But the 500 PF was a staple for photographers until Nikon started producing more of these super telephoto lenses. And it still is. I mean, you know, when the Z9 was initially fielded, I don't know how many photos we saw with that 500 PF, and they're just spectacular. So a lot of people commented saying they thought it was sharper, more responsive on the Z9, and even going back to Z6, Z7 series, other people had commented about the FTZ adapter and adapted lenses being fantastic. So, yeah.
Well, my friend today used a Z8 for really the first time, other than fooling around with it, taking pictures in his backyard with the 2 to 500, and he says, "My God," he says, "the 2 to 5 seems to be better on this camera." That was like the first thing he said. He says, "It's better on this camera." I says, "Well, yeah, you're gonna notice that a lot of your f-mount glass behaves better, performs better on the Z system."
Do you have any Z mount lenses yet, Paul?
Oh, no, I haven't got any Z mount lenses.
Okay.
But the only problem I've found is that my Tamron 70 to 200 G2, that won't work on the Z5. And I think it's probably because I haven't updated firmware on the lens or something like that, maybe, because I think you can buy a dock or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bit of a pest, really, because I think the dock's quite expensive, isn't it?
I don't know for Tamron. How does that updating those lenses work? I know with Sigma it has the little dock that you just mount the lens to and then go through the updating process, but I don't know about Tamron.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing. But the strange thing is 24 to 70 Tamron, the first version, and that works. But the 70 to 200 second version, the G2, doesn't. And yeah, that's a real pest, really. That's one of my best lenses.
Yeah. I don't know. Anybody in the chat that would know can add to this or help out. So
I'll tell you a lens down the road that you might want to think about is I use that 24 to 120 f4 Z lens all the time for casual shooting and street shooting, and that's a phenomenal lens because you could be on the other side of the street, and zoom in a little bit on the shot, and you don't have to be right on top of the subject, and it's sharp edge to edge. I mean, it's just so sharp it'll blow you away. I mean, even wide open, it's sharp edge to edge. It's crazy good.
Yeah, I've heard no one say anything bad about the 24 to 120. It's just a phenomenal lens. If you can do without that, what is it, 2/3 a stop or a stop, whatever it is, of light, most cases, most people can, I guess. But anyway, yeah, it's a phenomenal lens from everything I've heard, and of course hearing from you too, Jeffrey. So Paul, what are you going to shoot today?
Well, I have today. It's 6 o'clock evening, and actually, my wife's just turned up. She's just said it's time. But so I better go in a minute. But earlier today, I was testing the Z5 on a couple of lenses and comparing it with my DSLRs, and like I say, shocked at how much better they are on the Z5. It's kind of annoying, really. I love my DSLRs, and I don't particularly want to sell them, but at the same time, kind of, you think, well, if I'm going to get better results with a Z camera, then what's the point of using a DSLR? But I'll never sell. No one's ever going to take my
you don't sell them, you just keep them. Here you go. You just keep them all. And you use them once in a while.
That's the problem.
And you use them once in a while just to keep everything lubricated and working, and go back memory lane a little bit.
Wait, Paul, I'm not going to keep you away from your supper.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
No problem. You got to join us some more.
Yeah, I will do. Thanks very much.
Now we know you're retired, so you have no excuse.
Yeah, you get no free pass now.
You say
that? Yeah. It's reversed.
I don't watch it every day, though, I've got to tell you.
Yeah. Well, now you know. Right. You're welcome.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Thanks for the insight on your street photography.
All right, cheers. Bye then. Bye.
Hey, Chuck, you know what? I think if you're going to do street photography, you wear a shirt that says, "Don't mug me. I'm retired. I don't have any money."
Yeah, exactly. And Roy says the old DSLRs are good for beating off muggers. They do make a good weapon, no doubt about that. Oh, man.
Have tripods with the built-in spiked feet so you could, quickly defend yourself.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. David says he'll be keeping all of his F-mount glass. Still looking for F-mount primes. They work great for low light. Absolutely, David. All right. Anybody else that would like to join and give us your views on street photography? I do enjoy it. It would be nice if I had a location that was more convenient. Really, I need to go look around the town and find some locations, and I'm sure I could find locations that would lend themselves to street photography. But I'm just spoiled when you go down to New York City. It's like, man, this is the street photography mecca. I mean, there's just so much to shoot while you're down there. But again, anybody that's found locations near you for some good street photography, share it in the chat so others that live near or close by could go down and partake of that themselves. Yeah, Paul Connor said is I think it was the F5 that it saved his life. He used it as a weapon. Yep, that was Paul. Macro AFD lens, open box, mint for $180. Buy it. Thinking, Jeffrey? I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that lens. Mr. Roy will weigh in soon, I'm sure. Safety in numbers, otherwise packing. Yeah, that's the problem when you go down to New York City. There is no packing. It's just turned into a free for all. And so, yeah, that's the only problem with going down to New York City. Alaska Reef Guy, AK Reef Guy. Hard for me to do street photography in Alaska. It's more like bush photography. There you go. But you know what? I just have a feeling, depending on where you're at in Alaska, obviously, some of the towns, well, if it's Native Americans or Native Alaskans, I could see that might not go over well. I don't know how you would do that, but that would be, I think candid photos in a town would be fantastic. Which is why all the time I spent in Afghanistan, you can't imagine how often I wanted a camera in my hand to be able to take some photos, because there are some great opportunities.
Well, where I went on a business trip one time that I really liked taking pictures on the street was San Francisco. I love that. I would love to go back there someday just for, when I was a kid watching the streets of San Francisco show,
Yeah.
and the windy road that goes like this,
Yep.
and all the hills and everything, and the Golden Gate Bridge and Alcatraz and the whole 9 yards. That is a wonderful place to take street photography. That is absolutely fantastic.
Well, yeah, and California is full of locations to do it, but I don't know. I mean, obviously there are concerns in some locations like there are everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's full, especially it seems like along the coastline. All these little wharfs and locations is fantastic. Not to mention the fact that everybody over in UK, I mean, UK's got it all. It's got architecture. It's got street photography. It's got landscapes. I mean, man, what a fantastic place to go. We have it here in America, but it's so far away for some of us to,
They got a lot of rain and fog too.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, Modman's trying to save me from myself, saying, Jeff, no, don't buy the lens. Don't do it.
Houston has some great street photography, especially if you're willing to venture into some of the less savory neighborhoods. Yeah, Russell, that's just it. Everybody has to pick and choose how much risk they want to take. I'm one of the risk takers typically. If it's something I want to do, I'm willing to take a risk. It just depends on how much of a risk it is. But yeah, man, I'd love to do that. I'd love to, go to Houston or Austin or wherever.
Roy says he was mugged in New York by Adorama.
I get robbed every time I go down there by B&H or Adorama. Same thing, Roy. Every time I go down there.
Yeah, I'm thankfully I'm many, many miles away from those places. Otherwise, I could get in a lot of trouble.
Well, Andy says he has they have police, security guards, and muggers too. Yeah, well, it's the same here. Unfortunately, some places is getting to a point where the police turn a blind eye to what's going on, and so I don't know how effective that is, having a police presence if they can't do anything, which is really something that's pretty crucial. If you're being mugged or whatever, you would like the police to get involved or help you out. Oh man. So yeah, street photography is a lot of fun. I mean, again, I enjoy it, and anybody wants to come on and share their street photos, that's fine too, because this is all about street photography. I have to quit talking about gear so much. And Russell says Austin is another great city for street. Yeah, tons of street art and a lot of development in the last few years. Yeah. I have another street photo that let me see if I can find it real quick. It's a lot of fun. I don't know if I can find it.
I think what can make it much more enjoyable is if you had a friend or or if it was your spouse or girlfriend or or just a friend that could pose for you, then
Yeah.
you're not as uncomfortable shooting because you're not shooting a stranger, you're shooting somebody you know. And then you could like just say, yeah, lean against this old building or sit on that park bench or what have you. And your creative side of you would come out more because you're not a little bit nervous shooting somebody that's a stranger. I think it would help a lot.
Yeah, I agree with you. You just, if you're going to go do street photography, you have to be bold enough. I mean, you got to go out there. Otherwise, there's no need in going. I mean, if you're not going to go and you're going to try to sneak photos all day long, it just takes all the fun out of street photography. Malcolm says, hello, everybody. Hope your day is going well. Same to you, Malcolm. Hope you're enjoying the day. Dice says this would be the best episode to attend, but sadly can't today again, but would like street topic from time to time, Uncle Chuck and Jeffrey. All right, no problem, Dice. We'll see if we can't keep it, bring it back every now and then. Maybe try to set it up specifically for this with a little advance notice so people can come in and share some of their street photography. And he also goes on to say, I'm working but listening. Long time, no live here. Ha ha. All right. Working here too, Malcolm says. All right. Yeah, we'll see what we can do. Quit that. Go away. There we go. All right. So yeah, there's a pinned comment at the top of the chat. If anybody would like to join, come on, share your street photography experiences. What you shoot with and what you find is acceptable or whatever. It was interesting having Paul come in and talk about he's gained 3 opportunities, I guess, for income by outdoing street photography, by just approaching the people that he was shooting. So that's great. That's the other thing nowadays. If the cop asks you what you're doing down in New York City, I'm shooting people. You handcuffs right away, but
yeah, you better rephrase that to say I'm taking photographs.
Dice also says I'm becoming a birder since 2022, but street photography is still my first thing and the first real love. Yeah, man, if you've got a location or locations to go do street photography, I can see how it could become addictive. And like Hugh Brownstone, who in New York City, other than visitors, doesn't know Hugh Brownstone walking around with a camera taking photos? So, I mean, that is his haunt, and street photography is his love as well. But everybody became a birder in 2022, by the way. It seems that way.
There was a conversion.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I'll tell you, when I was young, much younger, my older cousin was going to go to school at the University of Toronto. So him and myself and my uncle drove, and I went there to help unload the truck, and we went to Toronto, and we got there maybe at midnight or something crazy like that. And the streets were all lit up. Like I said, I don't know if it's still like this or not, but this was a long time ago. The streets were all lit up, lots of street lights. They weren't saying, oh, we got street lights, but we never turn them on. And people were rollerblading on the streets at midnight, and as happy as can be, polite as can be. And I never saw a street so clean. I mean, you didn't see a cigarette butt or a piece of trash anywhere. I mean, I'm talking impeccable. And I think back on that now, and I'm like, boy, I wish I had my camera with me to get some shots at night, because it was well lit and it was late, very early morning, and people were just having fun. I mean, it was nice.
Yeah.
I hope Toronto's still that way. I mean, I don't know. I haven't been back since, but it was a neat trip.
And he says Hugh just bought the Leica Q3. It just seems like I don't know, Leica's kind of cheapening out, with the fixed lens camera. But not that I know anything about Leica, but I know that he does like his Leicas. Hugh does. He's also a Nikon fan as well, but he doesn't run any other cameras down, which is nice. But that wouldn't be Hugh Brownstone if he did that. He's way too classy. Hold that thought. I love that. Somebody said they could listen to him read a phone book. I agree. I could too.
Well, the thing is, that's a $6,000 camera versus you buy an M series and you're talking, probably 9 or 10 grand, depending on what you get. And then you got to add another $4,000 lens on it. So when you look at it, that you're getting a very, very, an excellent lens, even though it's fixed, you're getting the lens and the camera for $6 grand for street photography. That isn't a bad deal for a Leica.
I guess that's so. And you're right. That is one of the nice things about the Q series is. So, yeah. Gustavo talking about being down in New Orleans, talking about what a great place it is to do street photography. One of the best, he says, for city street photography. I bet it would be. Man, that's where candid photos reign. That would be great. Fantastic.
Yeah, I don't think anybody expects any privacy when they have the Mardi Gras going on. That's for sure. No. I mean, they're basically putting on a show and they want to get their picture taken. Exactly.
Dice says, sadly not anymore. Post-Soviet Eastern Europe countries are tricky, but definitely there is street material. I left Sofia, our capital, last year, so now living closer to nature. Okay, I understand. So this is the reason for the bird photography. And all right, cool. Real photographers always have a camera. Well, that's true nowadays because of this too. So I know that's not what you're talking about, Roy, but
I think Roy just shook his head, but we can't see it shaking.
Exactly. Maz says nobody rollerblades anymore, not even on the boardwalk. Wow. That's so 80s.
Yeah, he talks about this. Mazman talks about the ZFC is good for street. Yeah, I actually really, really like that camera. And I'll tell you, if they had a ZFC2 with 10-bit video, I would buy it for street photography. I really would. I mean, that's probably the only thing holding me back is that it's 8-bit, but for that's just a camera that's to me, so retro-ish, and it just fits that what you're trying to shoot. It just fits right in.
I like the retro look of it. When it came out, I liked the look of it, but it had a long line of priority purchases well before the ZFC. And as Nikon releases more things, it keeps getting pushed back further. So, but honestly, I wouldn't mind having one.
Yeah.
I just can't buy all the toys I want. Let's see. Jeff and Leslie. Jeff, he says, someday all the people who took up nature photography in the past few years will get bored and I'll have the woods to myself again. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how everybody became a bird and wildlife photographer, more bird than anything. It was the topic of discussion, I guess, because of all the AF. I don't know.
That might have happened because of COVID, that people wanted to be away from people and they went to more remote areas and started doing nature photography.
It's true.
And they never did it before.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just a guess.
Mozman yanking my chain here. Wait for the ZF, Jeff. Won't be long now. Who knows? It could be short order. Absolutely, Moz. I don't know. I've given up on trying to figure out the marketing strategy for Nikon, as you know, man. Yeah, Gustavo, and I just avoid them. Period, Gustavo. I just avoid any government buildings or anything like that, especially since they have so many cameras on them and everything nowadays. And why get mixed up and become one of those YouTubers who just wants to go fight with authorities over whether you can or you can't be on the property? Or I don't understand. I think that's crazy. I'm just going to avoid them. David. Last time I was out with my 800 PF, it was too long. That's a great street photography lens. Come on, David. you get your hotel room down on Times Square and just sit in the room on the balcony and take street photos.
Hey, Matt Irwin did model pictures on the street with that sucker.
Yep, he was doing portraits. Yep.
Portraits, yep.
Oh man, looks like good lens for the ZF for street. Talking he's talking about the new lens, I guess.
Oh yeah, that 24 1.7
yeah.
DX.
Yeah.
Actually, that ain't price bad either. It's under $300. I mean, well, I guess that was the thing. A lot of they didn't have a lot of Nikon DX glass. I mean, they were counting on third party to provide everything, so I'm sure there are some that are happy that they can get a Nikon lens for their camera now.
Andy, you never sent me anything in the chat that I saw telling me. Anyway, link is on the way. Is that it? Yep. Okay. Oh, hang on a minute. Got another one. You guys got to let me know in the chat so I can get over here and send links. All right. Back to the stream. Here we go. David says both Matts have used the 800 as a portrait lens.
Yeah.
Great portrait lens. Kills the background.
That's when you're really taking pictures of people that don't want you to take pictures of
them. Malcolm says, Texas Capitol was very friendly to me taking photos. Okay. Yeah, there may be states or cities that are more friendly. You can let somebody go in with open carry. All right, cool. All right, Andy. Let's bring Mr. Andy Miller in. Andy's a well-known street photographer.
Ha!
He gets pictures of all those lions that are roaming the streets.
Yeah, we do. So how are you guys?
Good, Andy. How are you doing now that you're a Z8 hoarder and you have two of them? All right, that's great.
So this is part of the build. It's on the gimbal, DJ gimbal foot.
Okay.
And I'm working out what to do with it next, but we're fine.
How are you finding the Z8?
It's the same as the Z9, a little lighter. I was pleased to get this small rig bracket, which I've put my little, you can't see it because I've got face view on. Hang on, let me move it there. I put a little side plate on so I can use it in portrait for now. Yeah. But they're great. And small rigs, L brackets you can buy. They're on eBay, not their store for some reason, but okay. And at some point in the next 2 years, everybody else will make an L plate too.
Yeah.
So, but it's great. I like the smaller size. I'm shooting with the Z9 right now.
What are you shooting at? Because
me.
No, I mean what it looks almost like it's 720p. I don't know.
What am I shooting to you at is probably downsampled something through a Ninja and then a Blackmagic something. It starts at 1080.
Okay.
And it ends up however it gets to you guys. And I have to use OBS to virtual camera. and I have no idea how that all works. It's just the only way I've managed to get a stream stable through our wonderful slow load speed here.
Okay, no problem. No problem.
I
Yeah.
do love it. I do love it when everybody says, "Oh yeah, we have to use the cloud," and I go, "Have you tried 10 megabits a second? It just doesn't work, or slower." You know. Anyway,
The cloud starts to generate rain at that point.
We're not all in Silicon Valley with a gigabyte a second. You know, it's just not there. So street photography. I live in London. It's a wonderful city. It's full of people and full of things to shoot, but it's also full of rules, and you have to be very careful. I've been thrown out of Trafalgar Square because there's rules, and there are heritage wardens, they used to be called, that policed the place. And so you've just got to be careful and not look like a commercial guy. Which in the heritage wardens rules were, if you carry commercial like gear, you need a permit. If you put a tripod up, you need a permit. And so if you're just walking about with one of these in your hands, you can almost do what you like. If you walk with a bigger fella and a tripod, it gets all painful. So there's a lot of space in London that is actually owned by somebody else, and you're not allowed to take photos standing on it, but you can stand half an inch to the left and you're fine. You just need to know where that little red line is.
Yeah. So is it more a commercial issue for taxation or something? You can shoot for yourself, but if there's any kind of profit to be gained, is that the issue?
So having won our little fight back in 2010 against the mayor and his people, it's about not creating an obstruction.
Oh,
That's the first thing, and safety. So there was me, 5 a.m. We got some sequoias, great big redwood trees in Trafalgar Square. A bunch of us went there. We took photos and we all got thrown out. There was nobody else. There was us and the heritage warden who'd just come off of night duty at some club somewhere, picked up his first day job, and he threw us out. When I bought my first 85 1.4, I said, well, where can I go and take photos? So we've got this little road called Old Bond Street, which is full of flags and beautiful stores and beautiful people. So I was walking down Old Bond Street, snapping away, and 5 guys basically accosted me to say, why are you taking photos of our shops? These are the expensive places.
Yeah.
I went into the cafe with them. We had a chat and they were fine. And that was on the DF, I think it was. So that nice little camera with a huge piece of glass on the front. and so you kind of get it. And I'm with everybody that says, if you can smile and laugh and joke, it's fine. But we've had everything else. So we used to carry a little card around with us that AP, amateur photographer, published, which was, these are the rights that I have as a photographer, and you can't, Mr. Policeman, you can't take the card. You can't delete the images. You can't. But the first thing you do is you just have a smile with them. I was on the South Bank taking pictures across the Thames of the Houses of Parliament. Now the scaffolding came down because it was painful for those years when the scaffolding was up. And half a dozen policemen came by and said, hello, can I help you? And they were fine.
Yeah.
I'm there with a view camera, which is massive, with a Hasselblad on the back of it, taking these shots. And providing you A, are on public land, not private land, and B, you're not being at all difficult, you're fine. The point about releases, just very quickly, if you want to sell your images to anybody, they won't buy it unless you've got a release of the principal characters.
Right.
Because they want to sell it unencumbered, it's called. They want to stick it on their site and just sell it. They can't if you've got a human being in it.
You know, I hadn't even thought about that. You're absolutely right. That's one of the issues, because I have this issue, as a matter of this photo right here. There was an issue because, you know, somebody said, well, you need to approach Beats headphones and maybe they would, you know, be interested in that photo because it probably would have been a great photo for their headphones. However, and I did it not even thinking about it. And of course, they came back, do you have a model release? Blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And of course, I said no. And they said, well, thank you. And that was it.
Yeah, and it would be because you know about music rights and the author of the music and the artist have rights.
Yeah.
Well, in photography, image rights are actually stronger. The right of the creative and the right of the person whose photo is being taken.
Right.
Now, if you're on public land and I snap your shot, Chuck,
Yeah.
if you're famous or not, that's my photo. You don't have a right if you're on public land in most places. Well, if you want to sell it, well, then you're in trouble. You have to go into so these paparazzi have got round it somehow. So for most of us, if you want to sell your photos, you better have the little app on your phone that you get them to sign the release and off you go, you're fine. But for me, I don't sell my stuff, but then I don't take photos. I was in Parliament Square in about 005. Brian May was coming out of the Houses of Parliament. I had a massive, great big camera with another big lens on it. And I watched, hey, Brian, how you doing? And he saw the camera and he looked at me and the security guard looked at me, said, I'm not going to take your photo. And he was fine. So you've just got to be as respectful as you can in 90% of the places.
Right.
I think in general, excuse me, I think in general in the States, if you take the picture, it can be published if it's in a news publication, then you don't have to get permission. But if you tried to say make it part of your personal gallery and you had it in a gallery and you were selling it, you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
But if it was something used for newsprint, then you don't have to get permission.
It's fair game
if it's in a public area.
Yeah.
Well, it's your last point. You're in a public place. They're on public land.
Yeah.
You have the right to take the photo. It's for the newspaper then to argue the public interest defense.
Yeah.
Which is, it's in the public interest. Really? Upskirting some movie star who comes out of a Ferrari with her legs open.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. How about the paparazzi that's always chasing? I mean, nobody can tell me they're getting a release from the celebrities that they take photos of. Yet all these magazines and whatever definitely buy them and print them. Yeah. I wonder how much of a problem they have. Not the paparazzi, but the places that print these photos. That's a good point. I wonder if
they have good lawyers. They have good lawyers. That's the point.
Yeah.
And they fight these battles every day, and that's what they do.
Again, this is the reason I'd like to get an attorney that could speak to some of these things and just clarify it. So we know it'd just be interesting, I think, because everybody would have questions. What if I do this? And,
so don't take pictures of kids.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Don't take embarrassing shots of people. I love the fact, was it Matt Irwin had a 400mm or an 800mm doing street photography, but he was taking pictures of a model that he'd hired.
Yeah.
And if somebody's doing a photo shoot, don't snipe in on the photo shoot because that model's being paid by the photographer for what she's doing. She's not being paid to have you, a Joe Schmo, just take a photo.
No, that's a good point. You're absolutely right. And there are people that will definitely do that.
Yeah.
Let me hoard in on your the model that you hired and take some photos. Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna get them out on the internet before you do as well.
Yeah. Because that photographer has paid for that model. He then has got to produce a product for his client, and sniping is just pathetic, frankly.
Yeah.
But then I'm old. I don't understand this internet thing.
Yeah, I don't understand it completely either. Celebs are fair game because they are newsworthy in public interest. Yeah, I can see what you're saying, Roy. But again, I'd love to have somebody that could come on and speak intelligently, which I can't, about what your rights are for the photos that you actually take. I think it'd be interesting.
Yeah, like the photo behind you, Chuck. If you printed that out and you put it in the wall in your house, no harm, no foul. You print that out and you sell it to somebody for $500. That's where you could run into trouble because the person would say, hey,
Yeah, I can give it away
You're
all day.
making money off my image without my permission, and
Yep.
I'm going to go after you.
I can give it away all day long,
Yeah.
but I can't sell it. You're absolutely right.
So do you know the name of this guy, Chuck?
I don't have a clue who he is. This is a drive-by photo as we're
Yeah.
driving in New York City, heading down to go do some street photography. I see this guy standing next to a mailbox and snapped the shot because he just looked interesting. And there it is. No idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Say
imagine.
hi to my friend Bob, who I shot pictures with today.
Okay, Bob, our photos. Cool.
Bob, our photos. Check them
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, you're right, Bob. You can have 5 different lawyers and they'll give you 5. I'm sure. Maybe they would confuse us more than help us. I don't know. But still, it would be interesting to hear their take for those that are that support photography, or I know there are some attorneys out there that do handle cases like this. So it would be interesting. Paparazzi aren't using the images to endorse a product and are considered photojournalists. Oh, that's how they get away with it. So the images can be used for media as long as you don't use the likeness to sell anything. It's fair game. Cool. I mean, that sounds good to me, Maz. Again, I'm wondering how many times they've been challenged for that, though. It's interesting.
I'm sure Star Magazine or all the tabloid stuff that's at the end of the when you check out your groceries, all those magazines, like Andy says, have a bunch of lawyers that'll just go toe to toe with anybody. So
yeah,
they're willing to buy your image if it's somebody famous and take the chance.
There's huge case law, and so I think the precedents will be clear. We just don't know them, and since these pictures keep turning up, I think the celebs know they've got little chance. And it's not just celebs; it's people who can pay for lawyers to go after them.
Yeah,
and that's typically rich people who are doing something they don't want to be known, and obviously something beyond the normal shot. So upskirting was the big thing, and still is.
I just want to bring this in because it goes along some of what you're talking about. Ray brings up a good point because there are some policemen or authorities that aren't up to date on what you can and can't do, and they can be anti-photographer.
So most places I've been to, it's illegal to take a photo of a first responder.
Okay.
Now, okay. You can't take a photo of a policeman. You can't take a photo of a fireman. You can't take a photo of a medical person. Why? Because they can become a target.
Well, yeah, I understand that. But I think what he's talking about is you're out on the street taking photos and somebody complains and grabs a policeman and says, this guy's taking my photo, and I don't want him to or whatever. Or they're on my property. This is where you were talking about the fine red line where their property ends. And the city always has an easement and everything else for the roadway, the sidewalk, and whatever. So, yeah, there are some cops out there that just don't understand the photographer's rights in the public domain and become a nuisance. I agree.
Well, it depends how. I think you've summarized it quite well. There are certain people that are just obnoxious.
Yeah.
And if they've got a camera in their hand, it doesn't change their nature. They're just obnoxious. And those people probably deserve to be spoken to. There are other people that will say hey, this is a nice scene. Do you mind if I take your photo?
Yeah.
And those people tend to have an easier ride. Now, you can row against the tide or you can row with the tide. It's up to you. I tend to like to row with the tide. And so being a normal human being, well, for some of the time, I just like to say, hey, do you mind? I was out with the X2D with a new lens when the frost was out, and I was taking pictures of cobwebs. And this lady was going out from a very, very nice house, and I mean seriously nice house. And she said, why are you taking pictures of my house? I showed her at the back of the camera. No, it's a picture of the cobweb. She then showed me 4 other cobwebs. Okay, they were in the dark, but I still took their photo to keep her on side. Okay.
Yeah.
So in this life, go with the tide when it's easier. Don't
No,
just beat against the river.
I agree with you. And everything that you have in your camera, not just the camera itself, but all the images on the card that you have in the camera are yours. It's your property.
Right.
And I guess the authorities could at some point want to see it. I understand that. But I don't think that I would allow them to take it unless they could convince me that there's something wrong with it. So that's another, and that'd be another great question for an attorney. What are your rights at that point when a cop says, give me the cards out of your camera, if he knows enough to know that it has memory cards in it, or when he demands that you erase a photo or two for certain reasons? What are your rights? I don't know. And like you, Andy, look, unless it's the end of the world photo that I think I have, I'm probably not going to fight too much to cause a big issue,
So you have various laws which happened after 9/11, and we have the same.
Yeah.
And so if a policeman says, I want to take your card or your camera, I require you have to ask, A, what's your warrant card, which is his identity, and secondly, on what basis? So in the UK, the basis is the Terrorism Act, Section 22, I think, I can't remember. And I say, really? Are you sure? So that's not threatening behavior. It can be taken as such by a policeman. And if a policeman is going to shoot you or tase you or whatever, life's too short in most cases.
And Bob, go ahead, finish your.
We've had a whole education program in London to the Metropolitan Police around this whole subject because they kept getting themselves in trouble. First, the police. We have these other group called community police officers, which are not proper police officers. They do a job, but it's not the same. They have different rights and powers. And then we have the security people. So the policeman can reasonably, you have to follow his instruction or her instruction, but they have to be reasonable instructions, and that's the test. And this has been tested in court, so it's not like I'm making this up. I just don't remember what the specific argument is. They cannot ask you to delete a picture, right? They would have to take you to the police station. They would have to actually, the sergeant at the desk would have to say, under this, I'm demanding that you do this, okay? And most of us don't want to go to a police station, so we don't bother. Right?
Exactly.
Right. It's just pain, and it's not quick pain, it's pain, right? They can arrest you for refusing to do as you're requested, okay? So you very quickly get off of being a photographer to being an obstruction. So this is where the fine line is. So again, like I said, we used to walk around with a little card, and it used to say, and I've got a new version somewhere, on what basis are you demanding I delete this photo? On what basis are you demanding that? And if you've understood that. Now, I do understand in certain parts of the world, the police are slightly more heavy-handed and they have guns. Our boys and girls have tasers and wooden batons.
Even within a municipality, there are different cops. I mean, some that are just going to be, whatever, be Karens, if you will. Everybody knows what Karens are. And then there are others that are like, okay, there's nothing wrong with it. But what Bob's saying here is, as a retired law enforcement officer, and I understand this, photography rules are not taught. Well, why? Yeah, I can understand that. But what you would hope is that if there's any controversy that goes on the street with taking a photo or whatever, that they would at least reach out to, the precinct or something and ask for some advice on what they should do, rather than just take it upon themselves to remedy the problem there, which may not fall in their favor. Because again, that is property that you own when you have it in the camera on the card.
99.99% of officers, law enforcement officers, are really too busy to have any of this stuff.
Yeah.
So you've got to get behind, why are they asking you?
Yeah.
Why at that particular point in time is a police officer going to the bother of asking you to do something? Right. They may know of a threat alert. For
Now
example.
there are different threat levels that we are under here in the U.S., just like everywhere else nowadays, especially since 9/11, and those raise and lower without us even noticing anymore.
Sure.
But if there's a specific threat against a location or within a city, then yes, they're going to be heightened for. It's heightened alert for those that are out taking photos and everything else. I understand that. I understand that completely.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying that all police officers, and nor do I think that they need to go through a week training on photography rules or anything like that. But it can be an issue sometimes if you're out there and you got somebody that's screaming in their ear, he took my photo and he's not allowed to take my photo. You would hope that at least they have a rudimentary understanding of what public domain means and whether you can or you can't. But again, I'm not going down to the police station to go through interrogation over my memory card. You know, it doesn't mean that much to me. I'll get rid of the photo. I know it's a precedent that's set, and people are going to argue that you're allowing it to happen, and it's giving up your rights or whatever. But I'm not going to go through all that hassle, even to prove myself right.
Yeah. So back to the fun. I'll share with you, if you would like, just a couple of photos, that one of which was one of this lady's cobweb. If you'd like me to, otherwise don't worry about it.
Hold that thought.
Yeah.
I'm going to run to the little boy's room. I will be back in a minute. I got to check on my cat because I don't have an outdoor cat, but he's spending more time outdoors now. I got to make sure that the raccoons haven't bullied him for taking their photo. All right. Stuart says, I almost got shot at the Polish border back in 2005 when I took a photo on the German-Polish border.
Yeah.
He's in Germany, by the way, in Berlin. The border guard wasn't a happy camper. I bet he wasn't. I bet he was, especially around 2005. Oh man!
I think I should complain to Google because my house shows up on Google Earth, and I don't want my picture of my house there. You know?
Yeah. Ray Powell says, "I'll hit these real quick, and then I gotta run to the little boys' room and check on the cat." Andy, at Section 43 Terrorism Act now, it's being abused like Section 44 was. Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you, Ray. Mr. Albert tuning in from Long Island. There you go. Our Long Island, the LIE, Long Island Expressway. All right. Appreciate it, Albert. Albert tunes in and listens all the time. I hope it's more enjoyable than what's on the radio. I just want to make sure I have all this. I don't want to get too far behind while I'm away. Public street. Yeah, that's the key. This is the cornerstone of the argument, whether we're right or wrong. Public street, place, can't shoot. But now I'm wondering, because I've also heard you can't shoot into a private building or residence or whatever for, take photos of people that may be in there. I don't know. Again, all this is just, who knows? Until you get stopped by law enforcement.
I agree with Gustavo's comment. Everyone's taking photos with their phones, so people with dedicated cameras are the ones that get singled out.
Yeah, you know what? And if I was going to go out and actually take photos for nefarious reasons, I would use a camera, obviously. I'm sorry, a phone. Because everybody's doing it and you're just one of the many. But if you're standing there with a camera, then it's nefarious activity. Yeah. Why do you need that lens? Why do you need this or whatever? All right. So, all right, guys, I will be right back and we'll get to your photos, Andy.
Okay. Not that they're worth anything. So what have you been shooting today, Jeff?
Well, I went to do some bird photography with my friend Bob, and the weather here has just been extremely overcast, not a ray of sunshine anywhere. So sometimes you can get away with that with certain birds that where the dull lighting is beneficial. but other times things look a little too flat and you just delete them.
Yeah. Well, at least you're getting out.
Yeah.
I was listening to, I get it wrong, 3 blind men and an elephant who did a piece on street photography, and he goes out with, and I think he looks like Jon Stewart, by the way. I get the two confused. And Ted on Art of Image or whatever it's called, he's another big street guy, and I think they ran a course in New York City over a couple of days that they jointly led, and that's what gets you to take us back to street photography. It's about having your voice within rules of composition. So when you see is it Ted? I can't remember. Hugh's pictures. He's always got the similar buildings, beautifully framed and beautifully laid out in the picture. They're not snapshots. They're carefully composed shots. He also talks about riffing, like jazz, where you just go click. But that's where his skill is so good that a click from him looks like a very careful shot from the rest of us.
Yeah.
And I don't have that. I keep telling people my two hardest focal lengths are 35mm and 50, because I just don't know what to do. You give me a 20mm and I'm fine. Give me an 85 or 600mm, I'm fine, because then you're looking at a human or something. But a 50, a nifty 50, the most common standard lens we're all given the first time we get a camera, I almost have no idea what to do with it. I'll take the 28 over a 50 every day of the week. Particularly as I like the 16:9 crop, which is the wide screen crop. I did a whole series in widescreen. I don't know why, it just took my eye. And now with the Z8, you've got the 50, you got it as one of the standard things, and it goes straight into your bank. So I take street photos when I'm here, because what else is there to take? I go to the street market and we take shots of people, take shots of the nice characters. If it's somebody whose portrait I want to take, I talk to them first. If it's a street scene and I've got the camera low to the ground and I'm just shooting, somebody's dog or whatever, then I've laid down in front of dogs, but I talk to the owner first, making sure they don't let the dog loose on me. Because I'm a big fan of this guy, David Yarrow. You can't see it because my face, David Yarrow, who's the king of the very low level shot. He's the guy that said, my D810s are disposable. He puts them in cage and lets the lion come and eat it, or the elephant pick it up.
Oh, yeah.
So he's tricky. It's not a trick at all. He shoots from below the eye line on all his subjects. He did a whole series of fashion shoots, I think, with Verhoeven and had a guest, this young Texas Nikon ambassador. And I think Yarrow and she did a shoot with Carla Devine and some wolves and lions and other things. And they're all shot from this angle from down here. So I lay down in front of dogs in the street taking their photo because I'm a lunatic, okay? So this guy, I think, is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So if you're taking shots like that, you're walking through a market or whatever, you take shots, but you want to single somebody out, talk to the person. If it's somebody earning their living, like a street performer, pay them. Not much, just give them something. Otherwise, they're rightly going to get a bit upset with you. And any street musician that's good, you should pay them anyway if you're listening to what they're doing. So for me, street photography, it's something I do when I'm not doing other things. I try and walk around with a camera with its labels covered. So the Hasselblad, I put a bit of black tape over the Hasselblad. But we did a whole walk on the South Bank with the Nikon school in London. And that was brilliant because you're out in a group of people with enough people for somewhat self-defense, or, there's enough of you. But none of us took tripods. None of us, not large tripods, little tripods maybe. And you do get stopped if you put a tripod in the middle of a busy street. Has everyone bought the Z8? Yes, a couple. No more. I stop.
If you can't get one, it's because Andy has a whole garage full of them.
No. There are people selling them now for about £6,000 to £7,000 on eBay.
That's
And if you're that desperate, buy it. I'm not.
no.
But we could have a whole debate about how you get to the top of the queue. And I tend to think if you pay for it as soon as you pay for
Oh, look at Chuck. Where did you get that hat, Chuck? Did you make that?
I got invited to this, which is the UK Roadshow by NPS, because I've still got my rights, and that's I might get a cap in June. Well done, Chuck. Is that the 85 you got snuck on the front
Yes,
of there?
it is. Yes,
Yeah,
it
that
is.
baby lens.
Yeah.
You find it's a bit too heavy?
You get the hat with the camera, Chuck, or did you?
I bought the hat and a T-shirt for $39.99 and $3,999, and they sent me a camera with it. Poor Carl. Carl says, "Sorry, Carl. I wish I could order a Z8. Sorry, man." All right, Andy, you want to share some photos with us?
Go for it. Street photography, my style. This is Neil from the Nikon school in London. He got to stay there for about 2 minutes, and all these little shades of people walking. So the only person I had to ask, "Can I use your photo?" is Neil. Isn't there? And you can't see it because it was cold. So we did a whole long walk up and down the Thames. And I'll just flick through these. Hang on, let me go the other way. But the best shots are not those. The best shots are, and I'll try and find one, the ones with people in them. There's a
Right.
And this is
That looks like, is that Roy Bixby?
No. This is me trying to use a Z9 without even thinking about it, in the wrong focusing mode and just in the dark, basically. And the ISO must be 25,000 or something terrible. And these guys are there every night. And you say, "Do you mind if I take their photos?" He said, "Yeah, okay." They don't care. They don't care. I remember when this place was Mugger Central, and now it's full of street markets and other things at night. But let me just flip to this one real quick. This was, oh yeah, I like taking portraits in black and white. These guys. This is very old and it's very low res now. This is in Doha, in Qatar. You didn't stage out of Qatar, did you, Chuck,
Yep.
when you went to Afghanistan?
Well, I didn't stage, but I've been through Doha several times. Yeah.
It gets hot this time of year.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So and then you get, you talked about black and white, so you got to do your line shots, of course, but then a little bit of color. This is elephants coming out of Amboseli. This is the mud, the white mud drying on them. So you just wash out the photo a bit, and that's nice. It's not street photography, wrong subject, obviously. Let me just find a couple of others. Oh, yeah. This is the guy. He has something stuck up his nose, so he's always dribbling. Local streets. You try and do all of these nice shots wherever you are with a little bit of composition and find some detail. Heavy rain on the back of a Bentley. Why not? It's London. Somebody's got one. And I just find when, going back to your black and white, nice. This is on the Chobe River in low season. Sorry.
Love that.
Some settings, and then my neighbor bought his Ducati. You guys like your bikes and things, and that's with the Z8. So my entire shooting with the Z8 from my back window, garages, black and white, local trees. Oh, you got to do a wall. You have to do a wall shot. One, you have to. It's the law apparently.
Got to look for barrel distortion. Yep.
You've got to look for and this is with the terrible 28mm 2.8 lens. And and that's a street shot. This wonderful guy who's disabled has a little seat, and he takes his grandkids for a ride.
Okay.
But for all of these shots, they're all in public spaces. There's thousands of people out. This is we get a little bit of minor ice. Yeah, I did lay down in front of that. Here's the dog. This is with the Hasselblad with no autofocus, and the dog kept moving. I'm laying on the ground at this point.
I like
He's only a little.
the little girl on the scooter in the back. See, this is what's great about street photography. It's not just the subject always, it's everything going on around it.
That dog was probably running towards you to lick the lens, probably.
Well, he was going to chew on me or something. This is the beautiful shot I took of the cobwebs with the lady walking down the steps saying, "Why are you taking pictures of my house?" Well, as I said to you, I'm not. I'm taking pictures of that. But technically, her house is in the picture. Right, this rather nice pile that's we could, and then we have to take my own security measures. I clamped my car because it was stolen. But we take pictures. This is for the school. You just do street photography. What's in your front garden? What's in your back street?
Well, that's just it with street photography. I don't know that anybody can define it as one certain thing. Again, it goes, there's architecture in street photography, and just these iconic marks. And, I've got some doors and headers over doors down in New York City that are all different, lions heads and ghouls heads and all kinds of different things. And, that can be street photography as well.
Yeah, and that's really the point. It's a bucket into which you pour whatever you want to call what you don't want to call anything else. Yep. There are some great websites. I went through the craze of putting frames around all my pictures for a while. I don't know why, but I did. I was working in a building a little bit further down the South Bank, and I went out for a walk one evening, and you get some nice shots. Black and white evokes the past. It's classy. That's a word. Well, I still think you can overproduce it. Put the riverboats home and take photos. Yeah.
That's something that you guys could do over there. I've always wanted to do it with old barns, even though they're so far and few between nowadays. I've waited too long. They're being torn down for the wood, the barn wood in them. Yeah. But, I know that you guys have all the canals and boats on the canals.
Sure.
That seems like that would be something interesting to,
if you can find a safe place to go. Okay. So those sort of places so we have a place called Camden Town, and there's a thing called Camden Lock, which if you were where I was at university or school, as you call it, my halls of residence were in Camden. This was the end of the punk rock era. So you used to go to clubs and be spat on if you turned right or left, and the pretty girls went. So I turned left and didn't get spat on because I didn't like punk, and I still don't. But all the locks there were always a bit iffy. They're always the place where certain types of people used to hang out. Now people live on boats there because housing's so expensive. But so most of my street photography is that this is early in the morning or late in the evening. I can't remember which. These are just the elephants. There was these are all sponsored, as you can see, and they raised a lot of money for some charities. And they look great. I mean, they're all, if I showed you the color version, that one's probably pink and that's blue and that's black, obviously, and that may be white. They just look nicer in black and white. Sadly, missing people, of course, the sun's over there, so it was the morning. That's the color version. I like the black and white. Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. The lens correction makes a difference on that one. Oh, yeah. This was slow, so you don't see the people. You see them in shade. Yep. Yeah. So, all of these shots, and these are not at all professional. This is just me, 2010, so 13 years ago, just hanging out.
Well, that's one of the things about street photography, too, is I mean, there are people that just have an absolute knack for street photography, but anybody can go out and just take photos and sort through them. And you're going to find competitive photos, if I can use that term, with even the best of the street photographers that are out there, because you're going to capture something that captures everybody's interest.
Yeah. And there are prizes, and there are competitions, and there are people who have galleries, and that's all they do is they sell street shots.
Yeah.
You know, the most famous ones, if it's back this voice point, voice and opportunity, the two things come together and you have potential for a great shot. So you've always, in New York City, when the kids turn the fire hydrants on and they're playing in the fire hydrant, that's a standard shot. So how are you going to take it? How are you going to make it yours? Well, you copy whoever did it, whether it was Bresson or somebody. Then what's different? What's different with your version than the 5 billion other ones that everybody takes because that's the opportunity?
But that's the thing about today is I think most people haven't researched street photographers and things like that. So it's new to them. And that's another reason to don't worry about whether it's been done before. Capture it if you see it and you enjoy it and you find interest in it, because there's a whole new audience of people out here that haven't seen it before. Yeah. So
a simple Google search, as I did, and if you want to share this, I can take you through this real quick. This is just can you share that one?
Yeah.
Okay. How about that? Middle of COVID, lady with a mask, somebody stuck an astronaut in a window. And I'm going, hang on, that's clever.
Yeah, it is.
Clever wins, right? So, and here's the other thing. Look at the composition. So you got the third central interest over here.
Yeah.
So it's a well-constructed shot. I don't remember how I can get back to. Oh, there it is. Another one. This is a lot of these semi-blurred shots now are showing up. So this is on one island. This is a British photographer. You know, did he say to this person stand still, and everybody else is moving around it? This beautiful images. That's in focus.
Oh, yeah.
That's in focus. So, you know, top 10 street photographers of 2022. You just do a little bit of research. I'm sure that young girl was asked to stand still as everybody else moved around her.
Yep.
This is clever. Was this guy asked, or did somebody just take a snap?
Oh,
well,
man.
a beautiful shot.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Obviously, we can talk about that, and that's a more classical. Somebody knew that existed, that staircase, and had somebody stand there, or maybe that's a statue. And these are from all around the world.
Yeah.
Definitely, this guy was asked, "Can you just stay put?" As they took photos around it, and this looks like it was a multiple exposure with long shutter because the feet are locked in.
Yeah.
And I think that's clever. The guy's under the I'm going to say Citroen with the dog in it. Isn't that a clever shot?
Yeah.
So
the dog didn't like the owner, I guess, in that one.
Well, so the implication is the dog's driving the car over the owner. The other implication is he's fixing the brakes or something.
These are the discoveries you make when out doing street photography. It's just you happen to see it and you know that that's a photo op right there.
So this is in LA. It says Clarence Lynn. Don't know who he is. Don't know where that is in LA. And he's obviously doing some kind of multiple shot. But he's got light blur. So it's on a tripod. He's on a sidewalk. He's under there. This is all steady. But he's done something to get that multiple exposure.
Yeah.
This could be Hugh, one of Hugh's shots of New York. They've got a runner, beautifully framed, nice reflection. Everything's in focus.
Yeah.
Here again, it's blurs, it's light blurs, but people are stationary. That's Japanese sumo. And there's another beautiful shot, a beautiful image what makes it are the two moving objects. Yeah.
Henry Cartier-Bresson, the decisive moment.
Yeah.
Standing there waiting for that to happen.
Yeah. And so I think you have to learn the composition. So this is wrong, but it's right. It's wrong, it's right because it's balanced, it's equal on the top. And you've got all this movement. And if that was in color with red and white and maybe yellow, maybe that's distraction. I don't know. This one is, I assume, in the Festival of the Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's in focus? Well, they're in focus, and you'd say, well, why isn't that guy in focus? Well, they're observing that guy. Well, that has its own story. Yeah. So for me, I think this is about experimentation, learning technique, learning leading composition. So there's a leading line coming down here. There's a line going here. It's all sharp. Yeah. Ranked number 1, 27 points. Germany. Okay. Hong Kong. Ranked number 1. Don't know, Lawrence. This is probably in one of the malls or one of the overpasses.
So this is one of the things, you just go out and you shoot anything that's interesting to you, take a photo, and later on you find the composition within the photo. You try to compose it the way you want it, but there are compositions within photos that you take, i.e. this photo.
So I was going to count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's the rule of odds. Odd numbers work, even numbers don't.
Yeah,
it's central around that middle 3. So you got 2 to the left, 2 to the right. The cloud happens to be over it. I hope it wasn't added later, which I hate. There is a rule of thirds in there somewhere.
I think it's a little too perfect that it was there. I'm sure it got added later. I don't know.
Well, with that new neural filter in Photoshop, I'm sure you needn't even have taken the cloud. You just say add cloud.
Yeah.
I hate that, but okay. So, but I think to take street photography away from being just tourism, I think you have to apply some thought, and to apply thought, you need understanding. You need to know enough. So I like the idea that somebody's gone out and said, right, I'm going to put her in the middle, make that work. It's a nice tonal shades. I'm going to ask her to stand still and then take a long exposure, long enough, maybe half a second or so, that you even out the movements, so you can still see people. Maybe it was even a quarter of a second or around that. I don't know. I'm sure we could see it. So a lot of that, is this a homeless person begging outside a beautiful piece of fashion? Could be anywhere. That was in Singapore. Yeah, okay. So we have that all the time. So all of this, I think, to take your street photography from just being a snap to something better, I think the idea of that Hugh and Ted on their channels talk about, the art of the photo, I think it's called. They're trying to help us understand what makes a good photo. I think searching for the composition afterwards, I think that's a bit too hit and miss. But okay. That's enough, yeah?
And Mozman's comic relief here, that feet under a car means your catalytic converter is being stolen.
And a Citroen Diane, maybe not. Citroen 2CV, maybe not. You want environmental air cooling, you unroll the tarpaulin roof and hope it doesn't rain on you.
Greg Wilson says, Gregory Franz said, feet under car, your car will not be stolen. And Greg Wilson said, hey, Gregory, around here, if you're laying under your car, someone will steal your shoes.
Or the dog.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, it's been an interesting discussion so far. I've really enjoyed it. I know we're in the middle of the week, weekday for you in the UK, all the folks in the UK. I know it's evening for you, so
it is.
So again, that's the reason for this day time slot, so everybody in the UK can participate. If you haven't done so yet, I really appreciate the likes, folks. I'm not asking for subscriptions. You'll do that if you want to or not, but the likes really make a difference. For me, it continues to motivate me to be on here, to try to come up with topics that we can talk about other than gear, because I've been chastised enough about that with the Z8 coming up and everything else. But yes, a like is very much appreciated. So for those that are in, and if you would, drop a like. And also, let me go on to say that our photo review will be Saturday night, 9 p.m. Saturday night. For those that want to participate, send a photo to apstudios001@yahoo.com. It's in the description below. All you have to do is check it out, and it'll give you the parameters for the photo and everything else. And by all means, please send a little bit of information about your photo. Everybody always asks what the camera, what the lens was, and if you can add that information, camera lens, shutter speed, ISO, it's important to some people for whatever reason. So if you'd add that information, it'd be nice. Maybe just a one sentence about what the subject is and why you shot it. This month is black and white. Shoot something in black and white, or go pull up one of your old photos and edit it in black and white. Or maybe you have an old black and white photo that you've taken and you want to share. That's fine too. However, if for some reason you don't have the ability to edit a photo in black and white or whatever, and you'd like to submit a photo, if it's in color, that's fine too. We're not so strict here. We're not giving away $10,000 for a winner or anything like that. So the rules are pretty flexible. Okay. And it's more about just sharing what you're doing and having a good time sharing some of the photos that you have. And believe it or not, it does inspire others when they see your photos, because it's happened to me time and time again. Man, I got to go out and try that, whatever it may be. So if you would share a photo, and we'll have another good time on Saturday night. Also, for those, and there are a bunch of you that have already sent in photos, I haven't put them all in the folder yet. I was waiting to get quite a few of them so I can sit down at the computer and spend an hour going through making sure I have all the photos. But you will receive a got it from me in your email sending your photo. If for some reason by Saturday afternoon I haven't sent you an email or reply back saying got it, let me know and I'll have to go hunt for it, or you can just send the photo again. All right. That's it for our photo review info. Now,
here, Andy. Andy's
Mr.
taking
Andy
off.
has to take off, but Andy, thank you so much for joining us. And I just wanted to point out, Ray Powell did point out that the car was a Renault 4, not a Citroen. As I would know the difference between a Citroen and a Renault. Although I would, if it's the latter model Citroens, or not latter model. I don't know when it was when they look like they're a Beetle almost shape. I know those. So anyway, yeah, Jeff, I don't know if you caught that or not. Yes, it's black and white if you can do it. It's not imperative that you send a black and white photo. It's just after our discussion about black and white, I thought people might want to go out and experiment with black and white. So there you
remember to send your best photos, because that's the only way Chuck makes any money on this channel.
So true. So true. Oh man. Yeah. Sanjit Paul. Sanjit just came out of the jungle. He's been out shooting hornbills or other wildlife, I guess. If Sanjit, if you would like to join, you're somewhere where you'd like to join, by all means, shoot me an email. It's pinned to the top of the chat, and you're more than welcome to join us. And that goes for anybody else out there that would like to join. We'll carry the conversation on for a bit more. We still have a little bit of time here. Oh, Greg Wilson had to take off earlier, work issues. It's a shame when work gets in the way of photography, isn't it, man?
You just have to tell your employer that you're messing with the priorities, baby.
Or maybe so Ray's correcting me now. Or you're talking about the car that I mentioned. Yeah. I don't know, 2CV. I wouldn't know that from whatever, Ray, but yeah, I recognize especially the 60s and 70s Citroens, it seems like. They just had that character, the body lines. But yeah, if anybody would like to join, just let me know. Send an email and let me know in the chat that you've sent the email so I can go over and provide the link. So Jeffrey, yes, I did. We had a little snafu on the shipping. However, I will say this, Picture Line, Chris at Picture Line, thank you very much. If you happen to watch this, Chris, for straightening that out for me and got it here sooner rather than later, even though it wasn't the next day. But he got it taken care of. I have it in my happy hands. I know I don't need to talk to you all about all the points and whatever about the camera because it's been gone over and over and over. And it is a Z9, by the way, so which I've shot with. I have a Z9. But I do like the feel of the camera. It feels, I won't say, a lot of people say it feels like the D850. It doesn't, but I like this, believe it or not, actually better. The grip is fantastic. It's just the perfect size, in my opinion. I wish Nikon would stick to this size, even for the other bodies. We'll see what they do. I know that all the Z7 III folks that want the Z7 III, the majority, I'm not going to say all, I have to be careful here, but I think the majority would like this body size of the Z8. The Z6 III, I think sticking with the current Z6 series body might be the better bet because it is, and I say that, I know there are going to be a lot of people that buy it for the stills, but then again, a lot of people are probably going to buy it for the video as well, the Z6 III. And that size of the body as it is right now, I think is fantastic for a cage or L plate or whatever you might put it in or on for video work on a gimbal or whatever. So, but yeah, the Z8 is very comfortable in the hand. It is lightweight. It really is very much lighter, obviously, than the Z9. But the Z9 doesn't bother me. It's not a matter of weight, but I do like this body size. And now I can carry two light cameras if I want. If I go out and shoot any events anymore, I don't have to worry about adjusting back and forth between cameras because it's essentially the same. I mean, it really is, minus a FN button. But then again, I don't use multiple FN buttons, so function buttons. So I'm okay with that. And Ray is knowledgeable on all these cars because he spent the early years in the motor trade, panel beater, body man, fitter. So I've worked on a lot of 60s, 70s cars. All right, Ray, cool.
I think about the whether to get another Z9 down the road or a Z8 or wait for a Z7 III or a Z6 III, but I'm kind of ruling that out now with the Z6 or the Z7 III because I'm used to a beefier camera, and those smaller cameras aren't going to fit quite right in my hand.
Yeah,
so I think I'm stuck with either choosing a Z8 or a Z or another Z9. So I haven't yet decided, and I don't have to make the decision right away. So
there you go. And yeah, I think you'd be happy either way, Jeffrey, because again, the Z8 body is obviously bigger as you've seen. I don't know if you've been to any of the events to actually try it on or anything. But yeah, I'm happy with it. The only reason I would get a Z6 III now is to complete the 6 series because I have the 1 and the 2. So I'm in no hurry for another camera body anytime soon. However,
if they go with the 3s, as they say, 3 strikes and you're out. So there won't be a 4.
it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But the Z6, which I'm using right now, is fantastic for this purpose. I'm not suggesting everybody go buy a Z6 just to stream with. However, it's fantastic. And the 14 to 30 lens is a great lens, and I'm enjoying that as well. But the Z6 II is a good camera, but I'm not going to lie to anybody. It's fine if you're just doing some portrait work or things like that. The Z6 II, Z7 II are fine, but
family pics, vacations, family pics, that kind of stuff.
But if you're one of those that has to have, the latest and greatest in tech, because you might want to use that advanced AF, then you're just going to have to upgrade to right now a Z8 or Z9, or wait for the Z7 III and Z6 III, which I'll guarantee right now they will have all this new AF technology in them. So I don't know when they're going to come out, but I think the Z6 III really needs to come out soon because there are a lot of people that want to have this new AF tech, but they want it in a lower cost body. And that's where the Z6 will rule because I think it's going to be a reasonably priced camera. And I have to be careful with that too, because I know all over the world, you know, if it's $2,500 or a few hundred more, that is not necessarily reasonably priced. So anyway, Canon, Sony's dropping vlogging cameras, you know, left and right. I mean, there's yet another vlogging camera coming out. So if you're into just vlogging, you know, Sony may be where you want to go because you get to pick from, I don't know how many they have now, vlogging cameras. So
I think they move. I think they move a switch and they make it a different model number or something. You know, they have so many different models.
well, the A7, is it the A7 III or A7 III? They are doing a lot with all the innards out of the A7 III. It seems like they're recycling that into a lot of these cameras. And there's nothing wrong with that because, you know, it was a good camera. So, but I think the Sony people are a little upset. Some of the Sony folks are upset because they keep doing that, recycling the 7 III into a new model or a vlogging model or whatever, or a more cine model. And they want something new. And I understand that, you know, everybody wants to see their camera maker come out with something new. And so it's understandable. Will they anytime soon? I have no idea. But they don't seem to be in a hurry. At least there are no rumors indicating that they are in a hurry. So, but no matter what you buy, whatever it is out there, if it fits you and you enjoy it, then it's the perfect camera. I don't care what it is. And just like street photography, it's not about which camera you're holding in your hand. It's about what you capture with it. So being out there and enjoying taking street photos. And I do love street photography. I mean, I love looking at street photography. For those that shoot it, I enjoy because it's always, I love what Andy was showing us there, but I also like the crowded scenes of street photography. So it gives my eye plenty of time to wander around looking at all the different pieces that are captured in that one photo. I just enjoy that. All right, I've rambled on long enough. And we even covered the Z8 for a few minutes. So for those that were looking for that, you'll notice I don't even put it in the title anymore.
Yeah, you got bonus coverage, folks. Didn't cost you any extra.
No extra. But yes, I did receive my Z8 and I'm happy with it. And I'm playing with it now. And I'd like to get out and take some new photos and maybe new black and white before Saturday. So I'll have to see how it goes between now and then. Jeffrey, so it's overcast. I think Mozman was talking about the same thing out in California. Yeah. This weather has been unusual this year. For California, man, they've received a ton of rain this year. So everybody should be happy. Most of the reservoirs should be filling up or close to full with all the drought that we've had over the last several years. So, I mean, that's one way to look at all the rain. And because I live in New England, as Jeffrey knows, because he's lived here, he's not too far removed from it.
No.
Typically the spring is just rain. And when it rains here, it doesn't come. It's not like down south where you have a thunderstorm and it's gone. Up here, it's 3 days of just drizzle.
Yeah, it's not Florida. 2 hours where you can't see through your windshield and then it's sunny again.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way in Connecticut.
No, it doesn't. It's just drizzle for 3 days. But we haven't had that at all this year. And as a matter of fact, I could use a little bit of rain right now on my yard rather than having to go out and water it. I got to keep the grass green in case we just have somebody that has to have our house and makes bids on it or something, gives us a opportunity to sell. All right, enough of that stuff. Nobody wants to hear about that. All right. So, yeah, I don't know. We have 30 people in here still. I know there are a lot of people that are out there just listening. I always appreciate that. That's fantastic. But I also want to invite people to join us, be on the panel, just come in live. And, there's a lot to talk about. If you got a lot on your mind, that's the easiest way to get it off your mind, especially rather than in the chat trying to type it all. Give it a shot. Paul Hills today. Somebody new that's come on.
Yep.
Somebody I haven't seen for a while, and I'm going to reach out to him, is Andre McAuliffe. And he was on with us several times, but maybe he's been too busy. I don't know. Mozman, you got a link too if you want to join, but I know you're working often and you just kind of keep an ear to the stream and make comments when you can. I see the entire state of California is no longer in a drought, aside from small areas of the desert that are classified as abnormally dry. Meanwhile, Kansas isn't looking good. Yeah. I mean, it's really good, though. I'm glad to hear that, California is beating some of the drought. That's great. Great news. I just saw something from Ryan Hall, y'all, a weather guy that has a YouTube channel. I suggest you guys check him out if you're into weather at all, talking about the hurricane season that's coming up next and what this new weather that's brought us all what we have right now, how that's going to affect the hurricane season. So he's an interesting guy to go check out. All right, man, Jeffrey.
I would just tell all these people listening while they're driving that Chuck and I do not sing, so you just have to listen to our voices talking. We will not torture you with singing.
No, not at all. Not at all. Oh, man. Yeah, it's just nice to have so many people that do join just to listen in. And again, like I said, I don't listen to the radio other than talk radio when I'm driving long distances, unless I'm with my wife, and then I can't listen to streams or anything like that because we have to listen to BTS for multiple hours. But I love her, so there you have it. Ray says it's typhoon season in Japan at the moment. Yeah. As I was growing up as a kid, I always wondered what was a typhoon and what was a hurricane. And for some reason, as a kid, I always thought typhoon was even bigger, even stronger than a hurricane. It just depends on whether it's Pacific Ocean or Atlantic Ocean to what it's called. No difference, really. So
yeah, I always thought as a little kid it was two different things.
Me too. I thought typhoon was, even worse than a hurricane. Yeah. All right. Wow. Well, somebody else just joined us. So, guys, if we've been, if you're just tuning in and you want to talk about the street photography, we've been doing that for the last 2 hours and 15 minutes. The last 15 minutes has been more just discussing the photo review that's coming up and a little Z8 talk for a few minutes. But we talked about street photography for quite a while. We've had a few guests in here. It's well worth going back and listening to. I'm not going to say you have to watch, but listening to it. Because Paul Hills joined us and he talked about how he's turned street photography out shooting into 3 opportunities for income by doing street photography. So I think that's worth listening to if you're into that and would like to maybe use it as an opportunity to generate some income. It seems pretty simple. So Andy Miller was in here talking about some street photography with us. And Joe Man's Land was in here talking about street photography with us. So if you're interested in any of those gentlemen, by all means, go back and check it out from the beginning. I had to put that up there, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
He does his singing during Christmas.
Yeah, that was a one-shot deal, folks. You're lucky. That's a one-shot deal. Yeah.
Only if you join us, Moz, man. We'll all sing together. That's if I can remember the words.
If we get 3 on here all the time, you can call it 3 photographers in a square.
Yeah, there you go. Mooch off of Hugh Brownstone's title.
Yeah.
3 wannabe photographers and
Yeah.
and a live stream.
Or call it 3 poor blokes.
Yeah, there you go. It's got a ring to it.
I don't think there's too many of us that are loaded with cash when you're doing photography as a hobby.
Man, isn't that the truth? It is a money pit, no doubt about it. Photography can become a money pit if you'll let it.
I mean, Mozman's trying hard to be my financial consultant and keep me on the right side of the the bank account, you know.
Where's Vahagen today? I haven't seen him. I haven't talked to him lately. What is Vahagen up to? He must be working. I know he shot a wedding or something, maybe more over the weekend, the long weekend. Must be busy. All right.
He's lucky. He has good clientele that have some, you know what?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's definitely done a good job marketing his service, his photography, his wedding photography. So yeah, he's probably still glowing from having Dixie Dixon on his stream. Yeah, Dixie Dixon is she's a great photographer in herself and not hard to look at either. She is a beautiful woman. So yeah, and that was a great stream. I listened into all of it, tried to drop a comment here and there as I was busy getting my brother ready to get out of here, which he left this morning, heading back to Kentucky. Mozman says 3 broke blokes and a Z9. I'm going to start another channel. 3 broke blokes and a Z9.
We're getting more t-shirt things, logos for t-shirts, Chuck. You got to start writing all these things down.
I know.
Crank out the shirts, baby. You got to crank out the shirts.
Robert, afternoon. How you doing? So he's got a comment here. He says, I find street photography resets your photographic eye. I think I'd agree with that.
Yep. I think it's really important that, you know, not necessarily every week, but, you know, every once in a while, man, go shoot something that you haven't done in 5 years or whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really reinvigorates you because, you know, you're doing the same stuff over and over and over again. You know, sometimes it could get a little dull at some point. So you got to refresh yourself, like he says. That's just go and do some landscapes or do some macro photography or early morning shots, fog shots, dew shots, whatever. So it's a lot of fun to do it.
Ray says, we all think we're saving money because it's digital, but you spend a small fortune in storage of millions of photos nobody will ever see. Well, you know, Ray, I'm trying to help everybody out with the photo review. Show your photos, those photos that nobody would ever see. But then again, I have hard drives full of photos that someday my kids are going to go through after I'm long gone and realize how much I actually shot and how many photos there are of them and everything else. Because right now, you're right, they don't care, but later they will. Just like I was with all the photos my grandmother took, my mother took. You know, it was later on in life that I sat down and went through a box full of old photos, and they're, you know, they're extremely valuable to me now. Kids will be the same way if they can access the hard drives whenever that happens.
And you pray they don't accidentally hit the delete button. Then they'll know it because they're going to hear your voice from up there saying, "No!"
Exactly. Good evening, Stuart. Good to see you in here. Robert says, I discovered it more during the pandemic, just walking the same route from my car to work. Yeah. Street photography, that is. Yeah, street photography, it can be a lot of fun, like I said. Depends on where you're at, but I mean, some places are probably more, well, I was going to say appropriate. That wouldn't be the right word, but prone to street photography than others. However, as we talked about for the last couple of hours, what is street photography? It can be architecture. It can be a combination of things, even. Waiting for the decisive moment to catch people doing things. It's candid photography. It can be, planned photography or portraits in the city or whatever. I say city, but not everybody has a major city. But then again, there are some rural areas that have small towns that lend themselves to street photography as well. Now, granted, you're going to stand out in a small rural town as a street photographer, whereas in some place like New York City, nobody's even going to notice you most of the time. So, I'm eating M&Ms like they're going out of style.
I like the comment about we think we're saving money because digital, but you buy and you go from say an entry level camera, and then you go to the higher end camera, or say you went from say you had a 12 megapixel camera, and then you go and you get a 45 megapixel camera. Then next thing you know, oh, my computer's way out of date. It can't handle the files. Oh, I can't handle the video. I can't handle this. So you got to buy a new computer. And then you got to buy more hard drive storage. And then it's just, it's a disease, man. And it flows into your pocketbook at the computer end and the storage end as well. Very painful.
I mean, that's just a general comment to make, because then you get into specifics within photography. You get into lighting. Lighting is a money pit. If you fall in love with lighting and want more and more and more, it's a money pit. So no matter what you do, hobbies are expensive to begin with. For those of us that do it as a hobby, for those that do it as a profession, I'd say it's better for you because you can justify your expenses and things like that. The only justification I ever make is I want it, and that costs me out of my pocket. So
I tell my wife, I tell her all the time, I says, hey, you always know where I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know where I am. I'm upstairs on the computer like I am right now, or I'm out there taking pictures. You know where I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Stuart says it's dangerous for us to do street photography. I don't know if you mean, Stuart, for you and your location or just us in general, because it has become more dangerous or stressful maybe to do street photography nowadays, considering everything that's going on in the world. But I still, like I said, and I'm not suggesting everybody do this, I'm not going to throw caution to the wind, but I'm not going to stop doing what I enjoy just because there are people out there that want to take that away from me. Not going to happen. Robert's talking about his Fuji X Pro 3 most times, but I love using the Z50 and Voigtlander 40 millimeter f2 and the 58 1.4. Okay.
I mean, for a lot of us, doing this is like therapy,
Mm-hmm.
Hey, that's a new one I could use on the wife. I could say it's cheaper than a shrink.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe not by much, but a little bit.
That's almost a conversation to be had, on a stream, talking about how photography may be your therapy, because during, not just during, but during COVID, when I think everybody, no matter where you are, got locked down at some point for a period of time, because we did here in Connecticut for certain. But it was my therapy. I could go out in the back, set the chair up, set the tripod up with the camera and lens, and just whether I took a photo or not didn't matter. It was my therapy with the animals, the birds, the whatever. And still, I feel that way. If I get a chance to go back there and do that, it's just enjoyable. My wife would ask me, well, what, you get any photos? And I'd say, no. I mean, sometimes it would be an absolute no, none. No, not a one. She said, why did you stay out there that long? Because I enjoyed it. It was just nice. It's peaceful. It's relaxing. If something comes along, great. But yeah, it is therapy. I wonder how many people feel that way. Maybe not the wedding shooters.
Yeah. That's more like a stress test.
Yeah.
Your heart is good if you could do that for a living,
Yeah. And Ray says, yes, but as photographers, we can capture a moment that would be lost forever if we were not there to capture it. True enough, which is why I go back I'll jump back on my stump here for a minute. For those of us, or for those that are young enough to, your parents are still alive, or even your grandparents, if that's your case, and with all the video capability we have, and it doesn't have to be a full-blown production, but I encourage you to go and sit down with your parents, set the camera up and run video without them noticing or without explaining that you're videoing it. You can't imagine how important that will be to you later on down the road, to hear your mother's voice, to hear your father's voice or your grandparents' voice. Just have a conversation with them. I wish I had done that. I didn't do it. So that's why I'm saying now, for those that have that opportunity, don't pass that up. Yes, I have photos of all the above, but now with how common video is and the ability to capture it is so easy, with most of us that are in here, no matter what camera you have the ability to take video. I'm telling you, go do that. Set your camera up on a countertop or on a tripod or whatever, and video you in a conversation with them. I guarantee, even as little as 10, 15 years from now, you're going to cherish those videos. I don't know how to tell you to archive it because I have no idea what it's going to be like 15 years down the road, but I'm sure you could find a way to archive it so that you'll still have access to it.
Yeah, I wish, I've told this to a few people. I says, if you're lucky enough, especially if you're in our age group, if you're lucky enough where your mom or dad are still around, interview them and ask them questions about their life growing up and family members that maybe you never met that meant a lot to them, and record that, because they truly are the greatest generation, and you can get so much information out of them. I mean, they were around when the radios got introduced. They were around when the TVs got introduced. They were around when the space race happened, and went through numerous wars that they lived through and had to deal with. And nobody's had all those experiences.
Yep.
That they have had, and for you to be able to have a friendly conversation with them and document it would be a gift to your kids.
Oh, absolutely. Your kids, your grandkids, and so many other people, so many other people in the family. So yeah, it takes nothing to do it, and you already have the equipment. It doesn't have to be the best sound, the best video, the best anything. No matter what you capture, you're going to cherish that later. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Don't pass that opportunity up. Robert Daniels says, he says, nice idea, Chuck. Yeah, afterwards. Thanks, Robert. And I suggest everybody go do it. I wish there was a way I could make everybody go do that, because I know that down the road, everybody's going to wish they had done it if they haven't. I'm one of those. Nothing like watching a Morton Helmer video for therapeutic vibe. I agree with you. I love watching his videos. You're absolutely right. And
I just feel bad for him that he's always freezing his what's off wherever he goes.
Yeah, he's crazy that way. But man,
yeah, it's a balmy -40 today.
Oh man.
I commend our friend David Stewart for all the times he's out there freezing his
absolutely
off as well.
But he's smarter than the average bear than I would be, because often he'll have his camper with him and he's
Yeah.
sitting in the camper and the tripod's outside doing time lapse or whatever. He just runs out and checks it periodically. Robert says, now if I can get a 400 2.8. Yeah. Everybody, not everybody, but everybody that was left out of the first wave or so is waiting for that lens to be orderable, if that's a word, orderable again. I guess you still can't even order the 2.8, the 400 2.8. The 600 f4 seems to be more opportunities for availability than the 400. Interesting. Oh, all right. We picked up a couple more people. I'm going to get out of here at 3:00, which isn't too far away, unless we wind up with 60 or 80 people. So I feel safe in saying that. I'll be able to get out of here at about 3:00. Yeah, we haven't had any marathon streams lately. So Robert says his pockets aren't available. So even if you could order it, you're saying you'd like to get it, but you can't. Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I don't need the 400 2.8 or the 600 f4, but I would love to have one. Don't get me wrong. I would love to have one.
Oh yeah, I'd love to have the 600 f4.
Oh man, are you kidding? What a
I tell you, I thought about it. I thought about it hard, and I thought about what would my life be like if I buy that lens, and I decided it wouldn't be very good.
Well, I was going to say I'd never get my money's worth out of it, but I think that goes without saying because I'm not in the business of photography. So, I'm right in saying I wouldn't get my money's worth out of it. But I guess more so, would I shoot it enough to make it worthwhile? Not that I wouldn't take one if somebody were to say, "Here, you want this?" Absolutely. I'm sure you feel the same way, Robert.
I wish Nikon would loan me one for a while. Let me test it out.
Yeah.
It would get a lot of use. You give it to me for 2 weeks, and I'll give you 20,000 shots if you want 20,000 shots, baby. Give me that lens for a couple weeks. Nikon.
There you go. I'll tell you, I'm still looking at because the Z8's out. I have the Z8. Okay, so what's next on my list? I don't know, but the 400 4.5 keeps popping into my brain. Although again, not a lens that I need. I have the 1-400, which I think is still a good lens. I mean, but man, I don't know. The 800 PF is that's too far out of my pocketbook to save up for that lens. So yeah, I don't know what's next. Last night I was thinking that Nikon's going to drop this 135 1.8 or whatever it would be, and I'm going to start jonesing for that lens. And I had to keep telling myself, you got the 85 1.2, you're fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And then Nikon helped me out this morning with the DX lens. Okay, good. Oh man.
Well, I just ordered getting it tomorrow. I ordered the 135 f2 D-mount lens
Okay.
for SLR camera, and that was the one that had the defocus control on it.
Okay.
So that's going to be a fun lens to fool around with. That's in that same tier for portrait photography, like when you like to use your 200 millimeter there, Chuck, that you still got.
Yeah. Which I am going to sell eventually. The 85 does what I need it to do or what I want it to do. Yes, I'm not going to tell everybody, but it's just as good as the 200 f2. No, obviously it isn't. I mean, even for just the focal reach, which brings about other things that make that lens so special. But I don't shoot it enough, and I'm not going to go buy a new FTZ adapter because I think that's an issue that I have. I've tried to put it on the Z9, the 200 f2, and it just doesn't work. I think it's my FTZ adapter because nobody else has any problems with it. So yeah, I think it's a lens I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell all my F mount lenses here. I keep saying I'm going to sell it. I need to just get with it and sell them. So folks, with a new DX being released, yeah. So Robert asks, what do you think the APS-C is next camera coming? I don't even want to speculate with all the amount of talk about a D500 mirrorless body. I don't know if Nikon's listening or not, but I would expect if there's another mirrorless, I'm not saying that there won't be an update to the Z5 or whatever, even ZFC, before we see a new APS-C Pro body. But I mean, either or could happen. But I think as far as a new model, I think that as far as APS-C having a new model, I think that we would see the D500 in its mirrorless form next. So don't know when or what. Nikon's got us all waiting for so many different things now. However, at least they're trying to reach out and do something now to get the lineup caught up. So that's a good thing. The only lens I miss after selling it was the 105 f2.8 macro. Okay. I'm not a big macro shooter. So the macro lenses have never been anything that I've been interested in. There's nothing wrong with the lenses. It's just, I'm not a macro shooter. Although from time to time, the close focusing distance on that 1 to 400 is pretty daggone close. Now it's not obviously not a 1-to-1 macro, but with 45 megapixels, it gives you a lot of cropping ability. It's never going to catch a fly's eye. So I'm not saying that, but that's not something. I don't have the patience to sit down and do that and focus stack and everything on insects or whatever. So Nick, you're not late. Nobody's ever late here. Sanjay Paul's still driving. He's got a long drive to get home. Just coming out of the jungle. J-Rod said he almost ordered the new lens today. $200 to $600. So
yeah, that would be something that would make a lot of sense, providing it's not too much longer.
Yeah. I just hope people aren't, the Z lens lineup has been fantastic. And I'm not saying it's better than anybody else's lens lineup. I don't even want to go down that. I get sick of people, that claim that their lenses are better than anybody else's. I don't know how you could say that. But anyway, the Z lineup has been pretty daggone good. The Z lenses have been fantastic, for us Nikon shooters. So the 200 to 600 is the big question. It's not an S line lens, so it's not going to be the creme de la creme of Nikon's Z lineup. How good will it be? Good enough? Or, what are we talking about? That's going to be a big determining factor. There are going to be those that are not going to be happy with it when it comes out. You know that. There are going to be those that are going to be ecstatic. But if it is a f4.5 or f5.6 to 6.3, is everybody going to be extremely happy with it? I don't know. Again, it's not a lens that I'm after, that I want, but I do want Nikon to drop it soon because I know there are a lot of people that want that lens, and I'd like to see everybody have an opportunity to get it. But because it's not an S line lens, is it going to be as good as everybody wants it to be? Because it's definitely going to be priced to sell, I'm guessing. And at that price, how much can they put into it? So I don't know.
I think it'll be, the 2 to 5 is a great lens for the money right now for the F mount. So if it will be a 2 to 6, should be, you know, a little bit better than the 2 to 5. So, I mean, I
I
think
would,
anybody starting off would be thrilled to have it. I think
yeah.
I think it'd work out really good.
Yeah, I know, and there will be those that want the 600 f4 TC in a you know, $1,500 lens. You
Yeah,
know that's
that'll
coming.
never happen. And
Well,
lens prices keep going up too.
but my point is that, you know, everybody's going to want that. They're going to want the same quality, same everything, and a $1,500 or $1,800 lens, whatever it's going to cost, or $2,500. I don't know what it'll cost, but the cost or the price is going to be indicative of how much quality is built into the lens. And I'm not saying that it's going to be cheaply built or anything, but we already know, or we think we know, because it's not on the lens lineup. It's not an S lens unless Nikon took it back to the drawing board and is going to produce it as an S line lens. And then people are going to be upset because it costs more.
Yeah.
If, you know, there's no way that Nikon's going to knock this out of the park. 100% of the people are absolutely thrilled with it, but the majority, I think, will be. So I do hope that they get that lens out sooner rather than later. Will it come with that APS-C Pro body? I don't know. I know everybody says it's the perfect opportunity, and yeah, I guess it is. Then you're talking about what, a 300 to 900 millimeter lens. Yeah, as long as it's telephoto, I guess you're okay. I mean, zoom, you're okay, because you're probably at the bottom end of, you know, being too long for a lot of people. I know people will say you can never have a lens that's too long focal length. I would argue with that and say yes, you can.
You can.
You know, more often than you think you can. So, but anyway, hopefully they get it out here soon. Mosman, I don't think a flower exists that would get me to lay in mud. Well, Becky won't be happy to hear that, Moz.
Yeah.
She loves her flower photos. Looking at the comments here, you know what lens intrigues me? Not that, well, there is a possibility it could tempt me to purchase one. It's not on the radar yet, but a 600 PF lens. I think that could tempt me. I don't know. We'd have to see. But
you also could do a 300 PF Z lens, because you don't have the 300. You know what I mean? You have the 300 and the F mount, but
yeah, I have always wanted a 600 f4 lens long before the Z series, and I don't know why. I just want it, and so if there was a 600 PF, there's a chance that could tempt me. Of course, that would probably take me a little while to save for it, and I don't know what it would cost, but I would assume that it would be a little bit more reasonable than the 800 PF. So it might be at a price that would really tempt me.
I'll kind of sort of answer Nick's question here. We're wondering how the 500 PF will work on a Z8. Well, I can tell you, I use the 500 PF a lot still on my Z9, and it's beautiful. It's fantastic. I would not hesitate to. I would not hesitate to recommend to anybody buy a 500 PF with a FTZ and throw it on a Z8 or a Z9, and you'll be very happy. Very, very happy.
You just go back to when the Z9 was announced and it came out. How many photos were taken with that 500 PF?
Yeah.
Man. I know everybody will say, well, that's the only long lens that, you know, we had other than the other big primes. But it seemed like everybody was just providing stellar photos with that 500 PF when the Z9 came out.
it has no apologies for anybody. I mean, Gustavo used the 500 PF a lot. I've used the 500 PF a lot, and it's great. And it's great. And you can walk around with it all day long. It doesn't weigh anything.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you can go into DX mode and, there you go.
There you go. You're at 750.
Maz says 2 to 600 is the next lens coming out. I'd put money on it. I agree with you, Maz. I keep saying I don't know, but I agree. I think that would be the next logical lens. Although right now there's a whole lot of chatter about that 35 1.2 or whatever it's going to be. We don't know for certain it's going to be 1.2, but I would almost guess that it is. I'm not a 35 millimeter shooter. I've got 35 millimeter covered, in a few lenses. Well, almost with the 14 to 30. I've got the two 24 to 70 lenses. So I know everybody says it's not the same. I agree, it isn't, but for my use, it's just fine. But a lot of people are looking for that prime, that 32 millimeter prime. So I agree with you, Maz. I think you're right.
Well, eventually it's the only one left on the list. They have to come out with it, It's getting there. There's not much on that list anymore.
Sith says, aloha, everyone. How you doing, Sith? Good to see you.
Oh, I'm sure the weather's great where he is, Chuck.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Gary Stevens, he said, I sent you a photo I took yesterday at the waterway with my old 5D Mark II. Sometimes you get a photo that just relaxes you. All right, Gary, let me, what was I going to say? If you don't mind, I'm going to bring that up. I'll download it and everything and bring that up Saturday night for our photo review. You don't have to be here if you'd like to. That's by all means, yes. But rather than taking time to go download it and everything right now, I'll put it in the photo review. Ma says, I'll buy Becky a cup of coffee. She'll be fine. About the flower remark. Martin Hild says the 400 4.5 would be the perfect companion to the Z90 or Z500 or whatever it's going to be called. Yeah, I agree, man. That would be a fantastic lens. You get a 600 f4 almost for the price of the 400 4.5. Hadn't thought of that, but that's a great point, Martin.
Yeah.
And everybody seems to like that lens, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is, Robert says my next estimate for the Z APS-C, that pro body that everybody's looking for, the D500 replacement, is $23.99 or whatever they're going to release. I would say you're probably right, and that's not going to make some people happy. But the D500 was not a cheap APS-C body either.
No.
So, yeah, it's not going to make people happy because there are a lot of people that would like to jump into a pro body APS-C camera, but it's not going to be, $1,500.
No, not if you want it to be pro built. It won't be. I mean, you want a cheaper one, they're out there. They have them now.
Yeah, my guess is right now it'll be slightly cheaper than the Z6 III. I don't know what that's going to equate to, but I don't think it's going to be as expensive as a Z6 III, but I don't think it's going to be a whole lot cheaper than the Z6 III. So obviously we have to wait and see. Nick says, I want to see how the 500 PF works with the Z8 when I actually get the camera. And Nick, obviously you need to wait and see it on the camera yourself, but I think we can all speak to it's going to be fantastic because there's nothing out there indicating that the Z8 is anything different than the Z9 when it comes to working with these lenses or anything else. So it should be identical to the Z9, and the Z9 it just works fantastic. And I'm saying this, and I don't have the lens, but of course Jeffrey's sitting here, and Jeffrey has that lens and a Z9.
Yeah, and Gustavo has the Z8 now, and he says he tried the 500 PF on it, and it works very well. So
there you go.
So you got someone that has a Z8 that's tried it. So
James says if the 2 to 600 comes out soon, I will be in the doghouse with the finance department. So James, that's a lens you can't pass up, I'm guessing. And I know you do a lot of bird photography and other things, so I understand that. Martin Hilt says all of the PF lenses basically are.
Yeah. They are.
James wants to know if anybody out there is hiring. He'll do some odd jobs, getting ready for that 2 to 600. Yeah, that 300 PF that kind of rocked everybody. I mean, it smaller than the 85. So.
Yeah, I mean that's a great lens for like high school sporting events and stuff like that.
Yep. Nick says if he had to buy another F mount lens, he'd consider the 300 PF. There you go. Gustavo, yeah, the 500 you were just talking about. Gustavo's comment. I'll throw it up there for Mr. Gustavo. Works very well. Sold alert. Ray Powell, I'm really good as well. Sold my 51.2. Now I'm thinking getting the 85 1.2. Yeah, Sith, I held out for the 85, man. I really wanted that 51.2 only because I saw what everybody was doing with it. But because I've never been I like the focal length, 85 millimeter focal length, but I was not happy at all with my 85 1.4G. I really wasn't. I wasn't happy with the autofocusing or anything else. But I am extremely happy with the 85 1.2. And I'm glad that I waited for it because I couldn't afford both. I had to pick one or the other. And I'm surprised I could hold out for the 85 because I was jonesing so hard for that 51.2. I don't think you'd be unhappy, Seth. I really don't.
So they come out with the 135 F2. Then you'll say, oh, no, now what do I do?
Yeah, exactly. And again, I have to keep convincing myself. I don't, would it make that much of a difference? I don't know, but I'm extremely happy with 85. You can see what's on the Z8 already. So the 85 is on there. Nick says, mulberry tree is ripe for picking. Need to get slap on the 500 on my D850 and get busy catching birds. Yeah, man. Yeah. And like I said, for me, I own the D850. I had two of them. Does the Z8 feel like the D850? No, it does not. And I'm actually happy the way the Z8 feels. And if you put them side by side, when the D850 came out and you could put the Z8 side by side with it, I'm almost certain I would pick the Z8 over the D850. Not because of what the cameras do, just from the feel. I like the feel of this Z8. I don't know why. I can't explain why, but I really do. And it is lighter. It is lighter than the D850, at least to my feel it is. And I'm not saying I want a light camera body. I'm just saying it is lighter, but I like the feel of it for whatever reason. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
I was just going to say, you look back at Nikon history, and they've always they call it human engineering, aka ergonomics. That has always been a huge priority to them on their camera bodies. And, you put my friends got the Z8. I've seen it. I got the Z9. The depth, that you have where your fingers can go around the grip and really hold on to it good. And then the clearance that you have between your fingers and the lens that you put on.
Yeah.
It's just everything is thought so well out. I mean, just the placement of the buttons, once you get used to it, you could be viewing your images through your viewfinder and never take your eye off the camera. You'll just know where the buttons are by feel, their placement. Everything is just done in such a way that it just makes it a joy to use. I mean, I'm looking at, I bought one and it had a little bit of a problem with it. So I sent it back. I'm waiting for another one. I bought an old, Chuck will love me for this, an old 1988 film camera, the F4S.
There you go.
And I'll tell you, you look at how that was designed by an Italian designer that designed Lamborghinis and all sorts of different things. And that is the time frame when how that camera was designed and where those buttons were placed. That set the stage for like every model that they've made since. I'm telling you right now. I mean, that camera is just, you could just put it on the shelf and look at it and drool over it. That's how beautiful that camera is. And everything's right where you want it to be, just like a present day Nikon. I mean, that's a lot what makes a camera. And I'm surprised because I've had people, I'll just say poo me because they'll say ergonomics isn't that important. Yeah. If you shoot for more than 30 minutes, ergonomics is very important.
Yeah, I don't know how anybody could say it isn't important. Maybe it's not as important to some people, but there is still, I mean, you're still, if you're buying a camera and you don't care how uncomfortable it is to hold or whatever, good on you. But ergonomics, I think, plays a part in everybody's decision on what they buy. I really do. And there are people that want smaller because they like the little, small bodies, like a ZFC or something, or the Fuji small bodies and whatever. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine if that's what, that's your cup of tea. But yeah, and which is why if anybody asks me, what should I buy? I'm going to get into photography and I'm not even going down the path of, buy used, buy whatever. The bottom line is this: pick up a camera within each brand and hold it. And then, look at it. Whatever's aesthetically appealing to you about that camera body and whatever feels best in your hand, you can't go wrong. I don't care which camera you buy, you can't go wrong. So don't listen to all the naysayers. They're only talking about specs and everything else. The bottom line is if it feels good in your hand and it pleases your eye, you're more apt to actually take it out and use it than something that's full of specs on a box, side of a box or whatever. So, and I don't care which camera brand it is. I mean, everybody's going to choose differently, but just make sure it feels good in your hand or whatever. I don't know what it is about that tactile, review that you do yourself, but you should do that because somewhere down the road, you're going to pick up another brand. And you're going to say, man, I like the way this feels rather than the way my camera feels. By then it's not too late, but it's really hard to go switch. So pick up pick them all up if you can. Somehow.
I mean, you can turn on the camera and switch the video without thinking twice about it. And your on off switch isn't on the wrong side of the body like some cameras.
Yeah. Well, it depends on, again, what makes you happy. I agree. I mean, I feel the same way, Jeffrey, but maybe other people feel different. Maybe there's another button over here I don't know, but definitely pick up the bodies and play with it for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And you'll figure out real quick, man, no matter what, I like this, feels better, but I like the specs of that one. Don't worry about the specs. Worry about what feels good to you and what's pleasing to your eye, and get that camera because none of them out there are bad. That's a fact. Russell says, I'm ready for the Z fisheye fisheyes and perspective control lenses. Oh, and the 300 2.8. You know, I'm wondering when the 300 2.8 will come out. I mean, Nikon has to do that lens. That is a gymnasium lens for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's indoor sports all over that 300. I think a 400 is just too long. I think a 300 is the lens for that, no doubt about it. And again, those that shoot outside, shoot high school sports and things like that, football at night under the lights, or even soccer nowadays under the lights or whatever, that 300 2.8 is going to rock. And those lenses are getting older by the day. So there are people that have, I know Mike Farrell has a 300 2.8, and the focus motor's gone in it. Nikon doesn't have a replacement for it anymore. So, yeah, that was a popular.
Good.
Yeah. Mozman, he says, I have a Z8 question. I've only used one for a short time, but I keep reading comments from people saying the AF is faster than the Z9. Any truth to that? I can't imagine how it would be. All right. So from my perspective right now, with what I've shot, took the 1-400 out, took the 85 out, went outside and played with the camera, the Z8 with those lenses. And I don't know if it is faster. In my opinion, Moz, it's got to be in fractions of or nano portions of a second. I can't tell. I mean, maybe it is if somebody has the ability to competently test it. I don't know how they could, but anyway, I can't tell. However, I could believe that it might be a tad faster, only because I'm sure that Nikon had time to tweak the algorithm, and that's what we're talking about here. It's not the drive motors or anything else. It's all in the recognition and the drive, the algorithm. I'm sure that they had a chance to tweak the algorithm somewhat, which is the reason that even Nikon said that it might be a little bit faster. I think Nikon talked about it. I know they talked about the eye autofocus picking the eye up further than any other brand right now, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if they said it. I didn't. But I've heard the same thing, Moz, but I can't detect it being faster than the Z9. I mean, it could be again, by a nanosecond or so, but I can't detect it. Those guys that shoot thousands of frames a day, maybe because they shoot so many frames a day, maybe they can detect that slight difference, but I don't see it, Moz.
See his last comment. One of the fanboys from NR is claiming it's significantly faster. I seriously doubt that.
Yeah,
well, I didn't see that today when my friend shooting his Z8. Matter of fact, no, I'd say that's just being a little bit proud. That's being proud of what you bought, but it's not reality.
Yeah. I see Gustavo answering it as well. I see it being the same. Yeah, me too, Gustavo. I can't tell a difference. Again, it could be a nanosecond faster. I don't know, but I don't know how anybody would notice that. But evidently, if there's somebody on NR, they're the expert. So, but I can't see it. As far as perspective lenses go, yeah, I think that's got to be something that Nikon's working on in the tool shed is tilt shift lenses. I don't think it's a priority for them. There are people that will argue that it should be, of course, but I'm sure they're working on tilt shift lenses as we speak. I don't know when we'll hear about it or see it. The minute it hits the roadmap, everybody will go crazy that's a tilt shift user. So
I'd be interested to hear from someone that's using an F-mount tilt shift lens with the FTZ on a Z8 or a Z9 as to how well it's working for them.
I don't know enough about the different focal lengths of the tilt shift lenses, but it seems to me that there are people that aren't happy that Nikon has missed. There's a gap that everybody wants. It's the more preferable focal length that Nikon doesn't do. I don't know what it is, but maybe that would be their priority right off the bat for a tilt shift lens. Da, 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 da. Oh, Umesh is going to bed. All right. Thanks for being in here. I appreciate you being in here. Going to bed in India. I guess Roy went back to bed from Australia. He was up earlier, in here earlier. Thanks for dropping by, Umesh. I appreciate it.
Well, I think I don't know why people would complain. I'm looking at them now. They have a 45 millimeter. They have a 24 millimeter, a 45 millimeter, and an 85 millimeter. So
I think it was a 19 millimeter.
Yeah, it's probably something that's
doesn't.
wider than the 24
Yep.
that they don't do.
So yeah, I know there's one that even Nikon shooters talk about. They wish Canon makes it, I guess, and Nikon doesn't. So maybe that'll be in the cards for the next go around in the Z mount. I hope so, if that's what people are wanting. Russell says ergonomics is the reason for him to switch from Sony to Nikon. Yeah, I'm not going to say everybody will feel the same way, but my advice to anybody that's going to buy a camera and doesn't know which brand and they're asking me which brand, I'm not going to tell them other than to go hold each brand, see which one you like the best. I know there are many models within every brand. I get that. But there's still something aesthetic about a camera body. All of them are different aesthetically. And we all know that the ergonomics are different, but I'm not even talking about ergonomics so much, just one part of ergonomics. How does it feel in your hand? I think that's one of the most important things to consider. And if there was such a difference between different brands nowadays, then I guess I would be touting whatever brand I'm shooting over the others because of the difference. But I don't think that there is. I think you can't buy a bad camera right now. All right.
I just checked Canon. Canon offers a 17 millimeter tilt shift.
Okay.
So I think that's what people say. Well, Canon's got a 17, but the Nikon only has the 24. Doesn't only goes as wide as 24. So that's probably where the complaint comes from.
Yeah. Russell brings up Canon just announced that 100 to 300 2.8, possibly in lieu of the 300 prime. Wonder if Nikon will do the same with the Z mount as they have with the 120 to 300. Those are two separate lenses and two different price points at two different price points. So I don't know. That's a good question. Which one would come first if they plan to do both? I don't know. But you're talking about two different price points. I don't know what the price is on the 1 to 300 Canon, but I'm guessing it's not cheap. A 2.8 zoom is not going to be cheap at all. Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is I think that the zoom in this case over the prime would cost more. I may be wrong, but I just feel like it would be, especially at 2.8. You're talking about some serious glass in that lens compared to the prime. And Robert says, we're looking at the Z120 to 300 2.8 TC a few years from now. TC, yeah. Not that they couldn't, but again, man, I'd hate to think what that would cost. 120 to 300 2.8 with 1.4 TC built in. Wow. So that question's been asked me by a bunch of different people too. Most recently, I was talking to Lee. Well, shoot. Anyway, Lee, and he's been back and forth whether he wanted to get the Z9, whether he wanted to get the Z8. Anyway, I think he's gone with the Z9, which of course he asked me. I said, look, it just depends on what you want. They're the same camera. They're gonna shoot the same way. It's just, which do you prefer? But anyway, will the Z9 get a firmware update to do everything that the Z8's doing? And I feel pretty confident in saying absolutely it will. I don't think it's going to be next week, but yes, the flagship, if you will definitely not be left behind the Z8. That's not going to happen. And because he specifically asked about that, Moz, about the speed of focusing. And I did tell him that I if it's ever so slightly faster, maybe, but I can't really tell. I mean, it's not anything that's noticeable to me anyway. Maybe we need to break this down into acquisition of the subject, or actually in speed of, autofocus from, just point and focus, and hearing that little bell go off if you have it set that way, or the little tone go off. I can't tell any difference with that. But then again, I haven't really tried to test it. That is something I need to do on its ability to acquire focus quicker as far as subject detection goes. Maybe that's what they're talking about. But I haven't even seen anything that would indicate that yet, that it is faster in acquisition. Could be wrong, but I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to go ahead.
Jeff and Leslie called out, and I just looked it up too. That 1-300 Canon lens is $9,500.
Wow. Yeah, that's what I couldn't imagine it being cheap. Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah. All right, let me skip to the bottom here. I'm sorry if I'm skipping over people. I'm just making sure there's anything earth-shattering in any of the comments before I pass them up. Yeah, I don't know, Maz. I just feel like I feel like everything the Z8 does right now, as far as algorithm type stuff, or adding a feature that is software, obviously a new, the face, the portrait thing, the HEIF, and what else? Skin smoothing. I think that they'll put it all in the Z9. I mean, maybe they won't, but I think they'll put it all in the Z9. I don't know when, but I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're running out of room inside the camera. I'm not trying to be a smart aleck here, but yeah, I think they'll add it all. I think that'd be the easiest way to do it. Now it's going to be a standalone firmware update for the Z9, because I can't see them adding new features to that and then trying to pass it off for either Z9 or Z8, because the Z8 already has that stuff. So we know that the Z8 is going to get a firmware update. When, we don't know, but we know of one part of that firmware update will be the ISO for video, dropping from 800 to 200 ISO for video. And as you all know, probably, Mark Cruz wouldn't talk about what the other firmware update would be for the Z8. Well, the other part of that firmware update, I think he talked about is two things are coming out in a firmware update. One is the ISO, and the other he wouldn't talk about. So I'm interested to know what that is, if Nikon feels like they got to keep it a secret. And they're smart if they keep it a secret, because if they say something crazy like it's going to, I don't know, triple the frames per second, then everybody's going to be screaming, where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? I'm not saying that's what it is. It's not likely, but smart of them. Otherwise people start screaming. Let's see. David Stewart. Who needs skin smoothing for portraits of women? We all do, no matter what age of women. You're absolutely right, David. We all do. Absolutely. I actually tried that, playing with it. I couldn't. I got to get somebody to model for me. But I tried doing it, shooting a selfie, and I couldn't time it right. Anyway,
You got to get the wife. You got to get the wife in front of the camera, Chuck.
oh no, are you kidding me? For that experiment? No. That would indicate she needed it. Not that and she doesn't. You don't. But I just want to. Grays of Westminster are indicating the 2600 will be next. Yeah,
it should be. I mean, it should be at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, the 35-1.2 has not been on the roadmap, for really that long.
Yeah.
And 135 is talk more than anything. I mean, maybe that'll come out, but it's long overdue. So, and it's got to be affordable because they got enough unaffordable tellies right now.
Let everybody know Sanjit made it home okay. He's parked now. Where is my t-shirt? All right, David, you brought it up earlier. I will show my t-shirt because my beautiful bride bought it for me for Christmas. I'm interested in subs. Who am I kidding? But I'm not going to beg anybody for it. I just enjoy the likes because it definitely makes me, I don't know. I guess I should get the like in here more than the subscribe. It motivates me to keep doing this, guys. Not that I need a lot of motivation to do it because I do enjoy it, but yes, the likes are very important to me. I never thought I'd make it to 1,000 if it wasn't for Vahagan and Simon at Ordinary Filmmaker. I'd probably still be waiting to get to 1,000. But thank you all very much for the subscriptions. But the likes, and again, they're free. Unless you don't like what you're seeing, then, oh, well, sorry about that. We are one big happy family here in the community, and I want to keep it so. But thank you very much, David. I appreciate that. Sanjay Paul's getting all the weight off his shoulders. He's a happy man. All right, because they've been in the jungle. All right, guys, I think I am going to pull the plug. But I enjoyed this afternoon. Thank you for participating. For all those that hung in here, it was a great conversation, I think, about street photography. Again, I'm not the expert at it at all, and it was nice hearing from so many people that have done street photography and are enjoying it. We got to see a few photos and enjoyed that. And Jeffrey, as always, Jeffrey's been in here keeping us entertained. Appreciate that, Jeffrey. Keeps us informed, I should say.
Entertaining means I have to juggle my dog's ball.
Jeffrey, the stat man. He's the stats man. But I do appreciate it. I appreciate everybody that joins every live stream. And let me go back and just cover real quick. Saturday night, 9 p.m. This coming Saturday night is our photo review. And I hope everybody will submit a photo and join us. This month's subject or topic or theme or whatever you want to call it is black and white photos. If you don't have a black and white photo, you don't like doing black and white photos, that's okay. Just submit a photo. We'll enjoy it anyway. So, and if you're one of those that does selective color, I don't care. If that's something you'd like to try or you want to submit, that's fine too. But anyway, the theme is black and white photos. All the information's down in the description. The size of the photo, how to actually prep it, email address and everything with information. Obviously send some information about your photo, the camera, the lens, the settings, and, one sentence about what the photo is all about or where you took it or whatever you want to put in there. But again, thank you all so much. I appreciate it. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the week, if that's possible. And I'll see everybody again Saturday night. I'm going to turn it over to my gracious host here, our co-host, Mr. Jeffrey, and let him say his piece. Make sure you go check out Jeffrey's channel, Selective Imagery. It's down in the description as well, plus some other links to other YouTubers that I enjoy following and are supporting our community. So, Jeffrey.
Well, once again, thanks everybody for coming on the stream here and asking a lot of questions and providing a lot of answers. I mean, and that's an understatement. I mean, I think that when people go on the stream, I'd like to think they get more out of coming on than they ever thought they would imagine they would ever get, because there's a lot of talented people on the stream, and you get a lot of good answers, and there's nowhere else where that's going to happen. I mean, it's nothing scripted. Everything's off the cuff, and it's just a real good community. And we should all be thankful that Chuck has put it together for all of us to enjoy, and he lets everybody, chime in and participate. I think that's the best part of what Chuck does. It's a place where everybody can go and feel they contribute to the show. And no one else does that.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I appreciate that. Yeah. It is. It's a community, and it's open for the community to speak. So I hope everybody enjoys it. And again, the likes are what keep me motivated, because it just tells me, okay, we're on the right track. We're continuing to do what everybody would like to do. All right. Chuck, did you ever have a station wagon? No, actually, I didn't, Maz. I never had a station wagon. I'm curious to know why that question.
I don't know if you want to know why he's asking that question.
Oh, man. Nope, never had a station wagon.
No Chuck wagon. Oh,
man. The Maz.
It's not even Friday yet, and you came out with that one. Oh.
Yeah.
John Ishii needed the wagon for the bodies,
Yeah, exactly. And then you got to go find a dead guy. Yeah. John Ishii. That's my favorite quote from John Ishii as a photojournalist. Then you got to go find a dead guy. Yeah. All right. No Bigfoot sightings either, James. All right, guys. Everybody have a wonderful rest of the week. God bless you all. I will see you Saturday night for the photo review. Thank you for being here.